Chapter 1683. In the towering mountain range, there were numerous majestic black palaces. Old devil duo Tian, Zidi and Dongsheng Heaven Emperor stood in the airspace above an ancient palace. Upon seeing Qin Wenyan, old devil duo Tian's expression was as unsightly as it could be. He used the heaven-seizing alms bowl to attack, wanting to probe how strong Qin Wenyan was. The heaven-seizing alms bowl was an extremely powerful emperor-ranked weapon that could traverse space to attack. As long as he knew the exact location of Qin Wenyan, although he didn't know where Qin Wenyan was, he knew that there was no mistake in attacking the Evergreen Immortal Empire's imperial palace. Naturally, old devil duo Tian wouldn't be so foolish to think that he would be able to kill Qin Wenyan just by relying on the heaven-seizing alms bowl. He only wanted to see what level Qin Wenyan was at exactly before he decided to deal with him. After all, they were going to face this enemy. However, he clearly didn't expect that Qin Wenyan would directly use the heaven-seizing alms bowl to traverse space and arrive here. Qin Wenyan's attainments in spatial energy were even higher compared to him. Just a single attack from Qin Wenyan was enough for old devil duo Tian to know how terrifying Qin Wenyan was. Zidi and Dongsheng Heaven Emperor also didn't understand what was going on. They knew that Qin Wenyan was proficient in spatial energy, and they knew that he definitely didn't have any spatial attribute energy. However, that spatial gate clearly contained spatial energy. Qin Wenyan could even traverse space and directly appear here. They couldn't understand what was going on. After that, the eyes of Zidi and Dongsheng Heaven Emperor were filled with hatred. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes would turn red. The grudge between Zidi, Eastern Sage, and Qin Wenyan was simply too deep. This was especially so for Eastern Sage. Ever since Qin Wenyan left this particle world, the grudge between them had already been formed. They couldn't coexist under the same sky as Eastern Sage. Zidi was the same as well. He had a grudge against Qin Wenyan for killing his son. These two illustrious figures of the immortal realms had similarly oppressed Qin Wenyan into an extremely sorry and miserable state all those years ago, and he'd almost been killed by them. As for old devil duo Tian, he helped the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor to kill him. Now, he even took in Zidi, plotting to deal with him once again. This could already be considered as a fight to the death. Qin Wenyan, how dare you come here? I want to see whose hell this is. The Dongsheng Heaven Emperor coldly spoke. Although he could sense that Qin Wenyan might be very powerful, this place was the old lair of old devil duo Tian. Qin Wenyan's immortal emperor army wouldn't be able to descend here. Changqing the Great and the others didn't come as well. Qin Wenyan was alone, the three peak stage immortal emperors and the followers of old devil duo Tian. Qin Wenyan glanced at Eastern Sage, his eyes filled with disdain. He emotionlessly spoke, "Old dog Eastern Sage, it has been so many years since we last met. You are still as retarded as ever." Eastern Sage roared in rage. Emperor Light flashed as he punched out with his fist. Millions of fist shadows descended from the sky, smashing towards Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan stared at the sky filled with fist shadows as he stood there arrogantly. His body glowed with a bright light, allowing the towering fist shadows to slam into his body. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out, but the fist shadows had no way to break through the barrier. Finally, the fist shadows dissipated. "Old dog, are you trying to tickle me?" Qin Wenyan stared at the ugly expression on Eastern Sage's face as he spoke. Old devil duo Tian's personality was extremely cautious and cunning. He was also extremely cruel, and when he saw this scene, he was already thinking of a path of retreat in his heart. Although Eastern Sage's attacks couldn't be considered too strong, he was still a peak stage immortal emperor after all. A single strike from him could cause mountains and rivers to change color. However, Qin Wenyan actually stood there unmoving. It was impossible for him to do this. Even the three peak stage immortal emperors might not be able to do anything to Qin Wenyan. More and more experts soared up into the air, releasing their auras as Emperor Light flashed. Qin Wenyan swept his gaze over. Old devil duo Tian was infamous outside. He was extremely famous in the immortal realms. He was an independent entity and had many famous subordinates under him. When they were being hunted down by others in the immortal realms, they would choose to join Old Devil Duo Tian. Back then, when the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor was destroyed by the Thousand Transformations Immortal Sect, the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor was in an extremely miserable state. For revenge, he chose to join Old Devil Duo Tian. The Violet Emperor was pursued by Emperor Yu for many years, and eventually, he was forced to follow in the footsteps of Eastern Sage. The experts in the air above the Black Palace were all ruthless characters. Since this was the case, he didn't feel any burden in his heart. Rumble! With an intention of his will, an instant later, boundless radiance manifested in the air, as well as countless sharp swords, enveloping the entire space. The swords appeared in the air, enveloping the entire Darkness Mountain range. At this moment, it was like the end of the world had arrived. Old Devil Duo Tian, ZD and Eastern Sage inclined their heads as terror could be seen on their faces. This entire world seemed to be filled with light and swords, wanting to cleanse all the impurities in the world, purifying all evil. This scene was too terrifying. Qin Wendian stretched out his hands. His will seemed to have transformed into the will of the heavens and earth, or at the very least, represented the will of this entire world. This. Old Devil Duo Tian's expression contorted, the hand that was holding onto the heaven-seizing bowl was trembling. He had always been wise, yet today, was he going to be implicated to death by ZD and Eastern Sage? The others were all shocked as well. Many of them directly knelt down. Senior, we were only forced to serve Old Devil Duo Tian. We didn't do it willingly, please forgive us. These people all felt a surge of heavenly might, an irresistible heavenly might. ZD and Eastern Sage's hearts pounded unceasingly. Their bodies trembled as they stared at Qin Wendian. They were truly afraid, truly afraid. Right now, how could Qin Wendian still be the young man from before? How could he still be a junior that they could kill with a flick of their fingers? The Qin Wendian who had returned today could easily destroy them. All the sins in this place shall be cleansed from now on. Qin Wendian faintly spoke. At this moment, a beam of light and sword might descended from the sky, landing on the mountain range below. Under the light, numerous faces of despair could be seen. They didn't even have the strength to resist. Regardless of their cultivation bases, immortal kings or immortal emperors, they couldn't escape from this world-destroying might. When the sword might of light landed, the Black Mountain range was razed to the ground, transforming into a deep crater. Many years later, this place would become a treasured cultivation ground where one could comprehend the will of a sage. With a single thought, the heavens and earth were destroyed. Only Old Devil Duo Tian, ZD and Eastern Sage were still alive. At this moment, the last strand of hope they had was shattered. They knew what they were going to face. Terror filled their hearts. Qin Wendian, I have no grudge with you. My actions against you were all instigated by that old dog Eastern Sage. I'm willing to kill him for you. Old Devil Duo Tian suddenly spoke, admitting defeat and begging for mercy. He understood what kind of situation they were facing now. Qin Wendian has already reached an unimaginable realm. This was a realm he had always been pursuing but was unable to step into. Seeing that Qin Wendian had no reaction, Old Devil Duo Tian continued, in the future, I'm willing to follow you, only following you. Qin Wendian coldly stared at him. No grudges or grievances? Back then on the Demon God Mountain, I was merely an immortal king. You borrowed the power of the heaven-seizing bowl and ambushed me. If it wasn't for the Southern Phoenix matriarch helping me, I would have long been annihilated. How would I have the chance to stand here? As for followers, I don't lack them. As the sound of his voice faded, an incomparably resplendent beam of light cascaded down on Old Devil Duo Tian. Old Devil Duo Tian retreated with explosive speed, but how would he have the chance to escape? He struggled madly under the radiance of the light, but after that he was destroyed bit by bit, transforming into motes of light that vanished from this world. Old Devil Duo Tian, whose name shook the immortal realms, died just like that. He took the initiative to provoke Qin Wendian, causing Qin Wendian to slaughter his way to his lair and kill him. Most probably, if news of this spread out, he would be the butt of everyone's jokes. The majestic black-colored palace had long been razed to flat ground, turning into dust. The radiance illuminated the sky as the sword might bore down on their heads. Zedi and Eastern Sage both felt a sense of desolation and despair as they stared at the figure before them. Back then, they watched as a junior grew up. Now, he actually stepped into that unfathomable realm? How many years has it been? Where did he get his light elemental energy from? I'm unwilling. Eastern Sage was like an enraged beast. His countenance contorted. Back then, I should have spared no expense to kill you. How would I have allowed you to have today? Zedi also felt the same way. He knew that there was no way for him to survive. Qin Wenyin didn't even spare the people from old devil duo Tian's lair, let alone them. Back then he and Eastern Sage did indeed have a chance to kill Qin Wenyin. It was just that at that time, Qin Wenyin was too weak, an ant-like character. They didn't even bother to lower their statuses. An immortal emperor of a territory wanting to kill an immortal foundation character, wouldn't that be a joke? But after they discovered Qin Wentian's shocking talent, they no longer had the chance to do so. Right now, Qin Wenyin could already easily crush them to death. Indeed, you should regret. But what you regret shouldn't be that you didn't kill me. Rather, you shouldn't have disobeyed Changqing the Great's instructions and humiliated me because of your son Dong Xingting. If it wasn't for that incident back then, I might already be a disciple of Eastern Sage. Thinking about it this way, I should be thanking you instead, granting me my wish. Qin Wenyin emotionlessly spoke. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor's heart trembled. Wasn't Qin Wentian's words the truth? Back then, he could have become Qin Wentian's master. If that was the case, given Qin Wentian's current achievements, how glorious would his Eastern Sage be in the immortal realms? Would the Dongshangshan Gate still be destroyed? When he thought of this, the pain in his heart grew even more intense. Zedi, there shouldn't be any grudge between us. Zi Daoyang's death was caused by Xie, but the arrogant you, the tyrannical you, actually vented your anger on me. Back then, both of you were lofty, treating me like an ant, disdainfully toying with me. Who would have thought that after a few hundred years, the winds and clouds changed, the blue seas of the world turned into mulberry fields. Today, with the death of the two of you, everything shall come to an end. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, light descended, illuminating the faces of Eastern Sage and Zedi. At the last moment of their lives, their expressions changed unceasingly. But eventually, they no longer struggled and calmly accepted the judgment of death. Hundreds of years had passed, the blue seas of the world turned into mulberry fields. Back then, they were lofty existences. When had they ever cared about the opinions of a minor character? In addition, it was unknown how many minor characters like Qin Wenyin were. But how many could be like Qin Wenyin? Everything could only be said to be a joke of fate. As the light descended, Zedi and Eastern Sage vanished. Very swiftly, news circulated out of the immortal realms. Old devil duo Tian, Zedi and Eastern Sage had all died, killed by Qin Wenyin alone. Old devil duo Tian's subordinates were also annihilated along with them. Even his headquarters was buried. From now onwards, there was no more old devil duo Tian, Zedi and Eastern Sage in the immortal realms. Suddenly, there were 3 less characters in the immortal realms. Chapter 1684. In the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, because of the deaths of old devil duo Tian, Zedi, Dongxing Heaven Emperor and the others, the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms trembled. Right now, many people were guessing how strong Qin Wenyin was exactly now. Back then, during the battle in the Evergreen Kingdom, he killed 3 immortal emperors. At that time, he was only at the Immortal King realm. Based on this deduction, his cultivation base should be at the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm now. In that case, for immortal emperors, there shouldn't be many who could defeat Qin Wenyin. Wanting to kill Qin Wenyin was as difficult as ascending the heavens. Unless another war of geniuses occurred and half of the major powers in the immortal realms participated in the slaughter. Just when everyone was still discussing the deaths of old devil duo Tian and the others, in the desolate lands, on the towering ancient mountain range, there were many gigantic palaces constructed. These palaces were much larger than the palaces of the humans. Because this was the Forok race, and the greater demons of the Forok race lived here. At this moment, in the airspace above this towering mountain range, a white-robed figure suddenly appeared. His gaze was fixed on the area below, his white robes fluttering in the wind. Hu-chi! The whistling sound of the wind abruptly rang out as terrifying sound waves tore through the air. Many greater demons shot up into the air with lightning speed, staring at the white-robed figure. There were many different types of greater demons that appeared. The majority of them were flying beasts, but there were also some greater demons of the Forok race that possessed the bloodline of phoenixes. Naturally, it wasn't possible for all the greater demons of the Forok race to be phoenixes. Such mutated greater demons were extremely rare, and they were all the kings of their race. They controlled many other demonic beasts that possessed their bloodline and enslaved many greater demons that didn't have a bloodline connection with them. Qin Wenyan didn't look at these demonic beasts. His immortal sense enveloped the lair of the Forok race. A strand of his immortal sense directly penetrated through the layers of obstructions, entering an incomparably majestic demon cave. Jayama, scram out here. Qin Wentian's voice was transmitted directly into the body of a greater demon that was hovering in the cave. That greater demon opened his eyes as a terrifying light radiated from his eyes. After which, he slowly stood up and spread his wings. His eyes flickered as he disappeared from sight. Jayama, an emperor of the Forok race. He had an incomparably terrifying bloodline of the Forok race and had innate techniques. With a flash, he directly soared through the air. Qin Wenyan only felt an attack faster than lightning, sharper than a sword slashing towards him. It was too fast, so fast that ordinary peak-stage immortal emperors wouldn't even have time to react. This was the innate ability of the Forok race, extreme speed. However, the opponent Jayama encountered was none other than Qin Wenyan. With a stomp of his foot, the entire space trembled as the mountains in the surroundings crumbled under the pressure of that terrifying rhythm. After which, all the demons only saw Qin Wenyan blocking Jayama's attack. A gigantic palm imprint appeared before him, forcing Jayama back. Jayama's speed was too fast, he spun in the air like a phantom. With a howl, Qin Wenyan was enveloped by the flames of a phoenix, directly burning him up. Jayama's wings flapped again as lightning shot out. A pair of incomparably terrifying claws containing indomitable might slashed downwards. Qin Wenyan appeared extremely tiny under his claws. Terrifying innate techniques manifested within those claws. It was like numerous divine birds of the heavens and earth appeared, wanting to crush Qin Wentian's body. Countless greater demons spiraled in the air, revolving around Qin Wenyan, watching the battle between their king and Qin Wenyan. Although Qin Wenyan was extremely famous now, Jayama was their king, the king of the Forok race. How powerful was he? They didn't believe that Qin Wenyan would be able to defeat their king at the same cultivation realm. Qin Wenyan stretched out his hand and stabbed out with a finger. His sword transformed into a heavenly rock, destroying the divine birds. Qin Wenyan stretched out his palm, causing the heavens and earth to tremble violently. Qin Wentian's body actually expanded rapidly as his palm grew larger as well. His gigantic frame resembled a divinity as he directly grabbed onto Jayama's claws. Jayama roared, folding his wings together as he slashed towards Qin Wenyan. That pair of wings slashed out with the might of millions of divine weapons. He opened his mouth and spat out phoenix divine flames, wanting to destroy everything. But at this moment, countless vines appeared around Qin Wenyan. He seemed to have transformed into a tree demon. Countless vines grew out from the rocks, coiling around Jayama's sharp claws, wanting to bind his gigantic body. The divine weapon slashing over was blocked by a resplendent golden Buddha body. After that, Jayama's wings were also bound as he struggled madly. How powerful was the Jayama? But at this moment, despite his frenzied struggles, Qin Wenyan didn't budge at all. Qin Wenyan continued to bind the Jayama. Incomparably resplendent sharp swords bloomed. Qin Wenyan directly pierced them into the stomach of the Jayama. The Jayama screamed in agony as he struggled even more intensely. Numerous terrifying greater demons rushed over, only to see Qin Wenyin bringing the Jia Yema up into the air. After that, he stood on the back of the Jia Yema and directly plucked out the feathers of the Forak. Fresh blood flowed everywhere as screams of agony rang out unceasingly. The Jia Yema trembled violently, shuttling through the air unstably. Qin Wenyin unceasingly plucked out the feathers of the Jia Yema as his screams of agony shook the heavens and earth. The experts of the Forak race frenziedly rushed over, surrounding the space, but they had no chance to act against Qin Wenyin, who was on the back of the Jia Yema. At this moment, Qin Wenyan's hand was as sharp as a blade, even more ironic than a sword. He directly pierced into the head of the Jia Yema, slicing through it and plucking out one of its tendons. An incomparably mournful scream rang out, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Such a tragic state caused the experts of the Forak race to go crazy as they surrounded Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin stood arrogantly on the back of the Jia Yema. Right now, the Jia Yema's entire body was covered in blood and he was on the verge of death. At this moment, a spatial gate appeared beside Qin Wenyin. "Within a month, send the news of my return to Little Rascal. If he doesn't return within a month, I will pluck out the feathers on his body and use them to refine a weapon. I will pluck out the tendons on his body and refine them into zither strings." Qin Wenyin spoke. After that, he dragged the incomparably miserable Jia Yema into the spatial gate. After that, the spatial gate flickered and they vanished from sight. Countless demonic beasts let out frenzied roars as they fell into complete chaos. However, they didn't know what to do at this moment. Qin Wenyan's domineering arrival had plucked out the Jia Yema's feathers and tendons. Who among them would be able to deal with Qin Wenyin? The Jia Yema was the emperor of the Forak race, the strongest expert of the Forak race. But because he dealt with Qin Wenyan's demonic beast companion, he was actually in such a miserable state. Naturally, the Jia Yema wasn't alone. Because after dealing with him, Qin Wenyin arrived at the Gold Sun race. The arrogance of the experts from the Gold Sun race towered up into the sky, bathing in the divine flames of the sun. This was especially so for their king. He was terrifying to the extreme, like a sun god. But not long after, his ending was the same as the Jia Yema. Like a dead dog, he was dragged away by Qin Wenyin and was brought to the imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. At this moment, the news of old devil duo Tian, Zidi and Eastern Sage's deaths had just circulated through the immortal realms. In fact, there were still many places that hadn't received the news yet. The Jia Yema and the king of the Gold Sun race were thrown into the imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom by Qin Wenyin. This news soon circulated together with the news of old devil duo Tian and the others. The people of the immortal realms were so shocked that they were speechless. The waves in their hearts were unable to calm down even after a long time. Too violent, too tyrannical. That was the king of the Forak race and the king of the Gold Sun race. Both of them were supreme existences among the demonic beasts. Even in the desolate mountain range, they were terrifying existences with heaven-defying combat prowess. In the city of ancient emperors, there was basically no one who dared to antagonize them. However, before the eyes of their clansmen, they were plucked by Qin Wenyin. This was simply too miserable. There were people who started to spread the details of the two battles. Many people sighed when they heard the news. In the immortal emperor realm, Qin Wenyin was invincible. No one could defeat him. A supreme demon-level genius, unrivaled in the immortal emperor realm. If ancient emperors didn't appear, who could contend against him? They finally understood why the powerful Ying clan and the terrifying 9 emperors' immortal state were all annihilated. Because, right now, Qin Wenyin already had the strength to stand above everyone else. The Forak race and Gold Sun race suffered great humiliation, but they didn't dare to kill their way into the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. After personally witnessing that battle, they saw how ruthless Qin Wenyin was. They were filled with a deep fear towards Qin Wenyin. They started to transmit this news back to the desolate mountain range, hoping that this news would reach the ears of Qin Wenyan's demonic beast companion, telling him to hurry back to look for Qin Wenyin. If not, if that baleful god went crazy, their king would surely be in for it. Because of a single sentence brought back by purgatory, The two demonic beast hegemons were now lying on the ground of the Evergreen Kingdom Palace, on the verge of death. Both of them were in an extremely miserable state. The Evergreen Immortal Emperor and the others stared at the two powerless hegemons lying on the ground before glancing at Qin Wenin. They could only sigh in admiration at how demonic he was. Other than this, what else could they say? Purgatory's beautiful eyes spat out flames as she stared fixedly at the two demonic beast hegemons. The old demon was killed by them, and little rascal was forced to flee for his life. Now that her big brother Qin has returned, they could finally vent their frustrations. Purgatory, I told them to transmit the news. Can little rascal hear it? Qin Wentian asked. These two demonic beast hegemons have extremely high prestige in the desolate mountains. If they transmitted the news, little rascal should know about it. Purgatory nodded heavily. She thought of the old demon again as her eyes turned red. Qin Wenin rubbed Purgatory's head and pinched her cheeks. It's all in the past, don't think about it anymore. Ancient. Purgatory leaned on Qin Wentian. She would only be like this when she was in front of Qin Wentian. She was born because of Qin Wentian and had a strong sense of attachment to him. During this period of time when Qin Wentian was away, it was the old demon who took care of her. This was why she was so sad. Spread the news. A month later, Qin Wenin, will invite all the heroes of the Immortal Realms here to settle all the grudges in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian spoke. The eyes of Chongqing the Great, GD and the others flashed. Qin Wenin wanted to announce this to the world, summoning all the heroes of the Immortal Realms here. This time around, would it be the same as in the past? Half of the major powers in the Immortal Realms would join forces to surround and kill Qin Wenian. Chapter 1685. The news released by Qin Wenian soon circulated through the Immortal Realms. Right now, the Evergreen Kingdom Palace as well as Qin Wenian had already become the focal point of the Immortal Realms. Countless peak powers had their eyes on them and every action of theirs was monitored by them. Right now, Qin Wenian issued an order to gather all the peak powers of the Immortal Realms in the Evergreen Kingdom a month later. Hence, from this day onwards, the originally desolate royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom once again became lively. Hegemons from all over the Immortal Realms rushed here, preparing to witness the unprecedented grand event in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Back then, more than half of the peak powers of the Immortal Realms gathered in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom to kill Qin Wenian. That battle shook the world and there had never been so many peak powers participating in the same battle before. But now, the news of the Evergreen Kingdom circulated out. Many people started to speculate that the forces this time around would be even stronger compared to the previous battle. The peak powers of the Immortal Realms started to contact each other or form alliances in response to Qin Wentian's invitation. All of them were preparing to head to the Evergreen Kingdom a month later. Many peak powers were secretly discussing how to kill Qin Wenian. Since Qin Wenian took the initiative to invite all the heroes of the Immortal Realms to gather there, they would kill him again on that day. They didn't believe that Qin Wentian would be able to escape this calamity. No one went to the Evergreen Kingdom to find trouble with Qin Wenian. After all, there were precedents. The Ying clan was annihilated, the 9 Emperors Immortal Emperor, Skymist Immortal Emperor and the others arrived in the Evergreen Kingdom and were all killed. Eastern Sage provoked Qin Wenian and Old Devil Duo Tian used the Heaven-Seizing Bowl to attack Qin Wenian but were all killed. The kings of the Forok race and Sun Gold Demon race were all captured by Qin Wenian alone. Qin Wenian was simply a god of death. Who would dare to antagonize him? Unless he was tired of living. After that, more and more people from the Evergreen Kingdom arrived. When the people from the Battle Saint tribe learned of the return of their Saint Lord, they all thought of methods to return to the Evergreen Kingdom Palace to pay their respects. They all felt pride in their hearts. Right now, their Saint Lord was already a character that stood at the peak of the Immortal Realms. There were 3 experts from the Battle Saint tribe who broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm, their strength extraordinary. After that, Qin Wenian brought the 3 of them to the 3rd world of the Battle Saint tribe. When they returned, there were 24 immortal emperors by Qin Wentian's side. The army of immortal emperors in the Evergreen Kingdom grew even more terrifying, faintly exuding the aura of a hegemon of the immortal realms. Right now, there were Chongqing the Great, the White Emperor, Qing, GD's followers, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the other immortal emperors of the Namhuang clan, as well as the Li-Fire Monarch and the immortal emperors of the Battle Saint tribe. Their numbers were simply terrifying. The moment Qin Wendian returned, he immediately gathered all these powers together. After that, Emperor Yu also returned. When he learned that Qin Wendian had killed old devil duo Tian, Zidi and Eastern Sage, he felt incomparably shocked in his heart. Now that he came to the Evergreen Kingdom and even saw a few good friends from the Battle Saint tribe, he was extremely happy. Hence, he decided to stay behind and follow Qin Wendian. Today, in the royal palace of the Empire, Qin Wendian was having a private discussion with the experts from the Battle Saint tribe. Wendian, back then when I first met you, you were only at the initial stage of Immortal Foundation. Who would have thought that after a short few hundred years, you have already reached the peak of the world? Emperor Yu sighed, staring at the white-robed figure as his heart was filled with emotions. Saint Lord is truly an extraordinary character. Qida nodded. He still remembered the scene back then when he followed Qin Wendian. At that time, Qin Wendian was still in the First World. But now, many of the people here were old ancestor-level characters from the Third World. Senior Emperor Yu has always been taking care of me in the dark. This is why I have today. Qin Wendian spoke with gratitude. You are the Saint Lord of this generation. This is something I should do. Emperor Yu smiled. I received news about ancient Emperor Yi in the upper world. Qin Wendian suddenly spoke, his words causing the eyes of Emperor Yu to flash. Back then, he was none other than ancient Emperor Yi's follower. One could say that ancient Emperor Yi was his Saint Lord. How is the previous Saint Lord? Emperor Yu hurriedly asked. Very good. He is truly above the immortal Emperor realm, surpassing the ancient Emperor realm and stepping into the World Overlord realm. Although I didn't manage to meet Senior Yi, I met two people from the Battle Saint tribe. They are the followers of Senior Yi and are now at the same level as me. They are both palace lords. Qin Wendian smiled. Emperor Yu's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he cast a deep glance at Qin Wendian. There was a lot of information in these words. This meant that Qin Wendian was also a palace lord in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was very possible that he was at the ancient emperor realm. Wendian, after the matters in Azure Mystic are settled, I plan to follow you to the upper world to pay my respects to my old brothers and pay my respects to Saint Lord Yi. Emperor Yu spoke. Okay. Qin Wendian nodded. After chatting for a while, everyone's respect for Qin Wendian grew. Right now, it wasn't merely because of Qin Wendian's identity, it was also because of his overwhelming strength. At the border between the immortal realms and the myriad devil islands, a spatial teleportation array suddenly appeared. In fact, there was even a group of immortal emperors guarding it. This caused many people who came from the myriad devil islands to feel trepidation. Now that the immortal realms were in chaos, could it be that they still wanted to invade the myriad devil islands? At this moment, the teleportation array suddenly lit up with the resplendent light. After that, three figures appeared. The one in the center was clad in white, exuding boundless magnificence. The two beside him were both supreme beauties. One was a white-haired goddess, the other was devastatingly beautiful. We pay our respects to Palace Lord and Madam. The immortal emperors guarding this place bowed. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. He held Qing and Mo Qingqing's hands as they directly entered the Devil Gate leading to the myriad devil islands. It was none other than Qin Wendian who ordered people to set up a teleportation array at the entrance of the Evergreen Kingdom. In this case, if there were any emergencies, they would be able to rush back as fast as possible. Although he told everyone that they would gather in the Evergreen Kingdom a month later, there were still many people from the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was better to be prepared for some unexpected situations. Is this the myriad devil islands? How majestic! Mo Qingqing stared at the floating devil islands as her beautiful eyes flashed with a look of admiration. The myriad devil islands are an independent entity. Qin Wendian nodded. They sped through the air, and when they passed by an island, a strange light flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. In the past, I've cultivated there before. Qin Wendian pointed to a certain direction on the Devil Island. This place was the Blackstone Devil Island, and the Blackstone Devil sect was the hegemon of this island. Back then, he had stayed in the Blackstone Devil sect for a period of time and even assumed the position of a devil general. Do you have any old friends or beauties? Emo Qingqing stared at Qin Wendian with an ambiguous smile on her face. Ever since Qin Wendian returned, Emo Qingqing became much more cheerful. It was like she had returned to the time when she was young and innocent. During these days, they were truly blissful. She truly hoped that things would continue like this, that Qin Wendian would bring them along wherever he went. Naturally, there are quite a few of them. Qin Wendian pinched Emo Qingqing's nose, causing Emo Qingqing to roll her eyes. She then spoke in a low voice, playing with flowers everywhere. Are you jealous? Ha. Qin Wendian was in an extremely good mood. Let's go, I will bring you guys to see my beauties. As he spoke, he carried the two beauties in his arms as his silhouette flashed, directly arriving at the Blackstone Devil sect. The Blackstone Devil King was still the ruler of this island. Lu Xuejia and Jiu were still devil generals of the Devil sect, having high statuses and were extremely powerful. However, they have yet to step into the Devil King realm. Although the immortal realms have undergone a great change and countless geniuses have encountered good fortune, this was only for those at the peak. Ordinary characters still had to live their ordinary lives. In the princess residence of the Devil sect, the third princess Yen Yurua was currently resting when she suddenly frowned. She inclined her head and stared at the air. After that, she saw three figures descending from the sky, landing in the airspace above the Blackstone Devil sect. Yen Yurua's beautiful eyes instantly froze. Yen Yurua's beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at Qin Wendian. She naturally also saw the two beauties beside Qin Wendian. She stood up, looking as sexy as before, exuding a sense of charm. After that, she glared at Qin Wendian in anger. Heartless bastard, you still have the face to return? Qin Wendian had a face filled with black lines. He stared at Yen Yurua. Third princess, don't talk nonsense. How am I talking nonsense? Back then you played with my feelings and even bullied me, yet you chose to leave me alone. You bastard. Yen Yurua had a look of grievance on her face as she spoke, as though she was about to cry. Emo Qingqing and Qing both smiled at Qin Wendian, only to see a dumbfounded look on Qin Wentian's face. This female devil, did she have to trick him like this? Upon seeing the expression on Qin Wentian's face, Yen Yurua suddenly broke out into a smile, exuding an incomparable charm. Where did the grievance on her face earlier go? I'm just joking with you. These two fairies are truly stunning beauties. No wonder this bastard doesn't like me. However, I'm also extraordinarily beautiful. Why don't the two fairies allow me to be your concubine? Yen Yurua giggled. After that, she stared at Qin Wendian with hidden bitterness. I've already said it to such an extent, are you still unwilling? As she spoke, her expression turned even more aggrieved. Qin Wendian stared at Yen Yurua's performance. He could feel the hands of Qing and Emo Qingqing twisting around his waist. He speechlessly spoke, Yen Yurua, you better remember this for me. As the sound of his voice faded, he brought Qing and Emo Qingqing along with him as they fled. I want you to remember me. The third princess Yen Yurua was still smiling. Her beautiful eyes were still staring at Qin Wentian's disappearing silhouette. She felt a sense of loss in her heart as well as sadness. When the Blackstone Devil King arrived, he saw Qin Wendian leaving. Lu Xuejia and Jiu also saw Qin Wendian. However, they only saw him for a moment before he disappeared again. Their hearts were filled with sadness. In the eyes of others, they were ultimately just passers-by in life. On the Fallen Devil Island of the Fallen Devil region, the Celestial Devil Lodge was the same as usual. There would occasionally be young geniuses coming here. However, Fairy Xnu of the Celestial Devil Lodge was no longer accompanying the guests. She had always been by the Lodge Lord's side. Lodge Lord, There's someone outside the Celestial Devil Lodge requesting an audience with you. He says he wants to see Xanyu. Someone came to report. A strange look appeared on the Lodge Lord's face. There was actually someone looking for Xanyu? Right now in the Celestial Devil Lodge, Xanyu rarely appeared outside. Go and take a look. The Lodge Lord spoke to Xanyu. Machem. Xanyu nodded. After that, she came to a pavilion and turned her gaze over there. There was a white-robed figure standing there, exuding an extraordinary aura. There were also two supreme beauties beside him. Xanyu only felt her entire body trembling, as though she was struck by lightning. She paused for a moment before she instantly turned and ran away. Xanyu. A voice drifted over, causing her body to tremble. She halted her steps as she asked, "Sir, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to see if my old friends are doing well." Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. Xanyu turned and smiled sweetly at Qin Wendian as she asked, "These two fairies are the wives of young Master, right? Both of you are as beautiful as celestial maidens, causing others to feel ashamed of their inferiority." Chapter 1686. Qin Wendian stared at the smile in Xanyu's eyes as he spoke. "My wife Mo Qingqing and Qinyu. Sir has always been deeply in love with your wives. Now that I've seen the faces of the two fairies, they are truly a perfect match for you, like a celestial couple. Xanyu wishes Sir and the two fairies to love each other forever." Xanyu smiled. After that, she bowed slightly. "Xanyu still has something to do and will make a move first. Sir, please do as you wish." After speaking, she turned and left. Staring at her back view, Qin Wendian didn't say anything. He only sighed and brought Qing'er and Mo Qingqing away. Xanyu returned to the Lodge Lord's room. When she heard someone reporting that Qin Wendian had left, Xanyu's beautiful eyes turned slightly red. She thought that she would never be able to meet with him again in this lifetime. She didn't expect that he would still come to visit her. His wife was truly a celestial maiden. No wonder she already had someone in her heart back then. Since you still have feelings for him in your heart, why are you so heartless, chasing him away? The Lodge Lord saw everything and sighed as she stared at Xanyu. However, Xanyu smiled at her. "Lodge Lord, do you still remember what Xanyu said to you before?" Although many years have passed, I still have a deep impression of him. After all, he was a character whose name shook the entire Devil Island back then. Even the fallen Devil Emperor was forced to lower his head by him." The Lodge Lord spoke in a light voice. Back then, Qin Wendian was humiliated on the fallen Devil Island. After that, he made a comeback and brought the vast Sky Devil Emperor and an army with him, causing the entire Devil Island to tremble. Who didn't know about this? But even so, the Lodge Lord of the Lodge didn't dare to agree with Xanyu's evaluation of Qin Wendian. When he sat on the throne in the air, staring down at the world, how can she be worthy of being the woman sitting beside him? Xanyu's evaluation of Qin Wendian was too high. Hence, she still remembered it clearly. Today, after seeing his wife, I agree with what he said back then even more. Only his wife is worthy of such glory. Although Xanyu was smiling when she spoke, the redness in her eyes grew even more intense. The Lodge Lord of the Celestial Devil Lodge sighed. Xanyu ultimately still felt inferior, feeling that she wasn't worthy of Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian sighed in his heart. After that, he told Qing'er and Mo Qingqing about some of his experiences in the myriad Devil Islands. After learning about the dangers Qin Wendian encountered, as well as Xanyu's sacrifice, they all sighed silently. Qin Wendian was truly a pitiful person. "If there's a chance, I'll return the favor from back then." Qing'er spoke in a light voice. Xanyu sacrificed herself for Qin Wendian, allowing Qin Wendian to survive a calamity and even raise his cultivation base. However, she herself had to live a pitiful life, living alone by the side of the Lodge Lord of the Celestial Devil Lodge as a maid. Why don't you bring her to your side to take care of you? In any case, you are fond of beauties." Mo Qingqing stared at Qin Wendian as she giggled. She wasn't joking, she and Qin Wendian were separated more often than not. Hence, she was very moved by Xanyu's predicament. Qin Wenyan sweated as his face was filled with black lines. He directly headed towards the Emperor Palace of the fallen Devil Emperor, heading towards the Devil Mountain. The Devil Mountain was the same as before. This sacred ground of the myriad Devil Islands was still as calm as before. Even though the immortal realms were in chaos, it didn't affect the Devil Mountain. It was just that the internal conflicts of the Devil Mountain were extremely intense. The conflict between the Judiciary Devil Hall and Darkness Devil Hall was extremely deep. Today, a white-robed figure with unmatched magnificence brought along two supreme beauties, directly ascending the Devil Mountain. There was no need to report to anyone. When Qin Wenyan arrived at the Devil Mountain, the experts of the 6 great halls were all gathered here, as though they were waiting for his arrival. In truth, from the instant Qin Wenyan stepped into the Devil Mountain already knew that Qin Wenyan was coming to the myriad Devil Islands. And given Qin Wenyan's fame in the immortal realms, there could only be a single reason why he came to the myriad Devil Islands, the Devil Mountain. Hence, the various Devil Halls have long been waiting here. The immortal realms were in chaos. How could the myriad Devil Islands not pay attention to the commotion in the immortal realms? During these days, the commotion that happened shocked the immortal realms. How could the myriad Devil Islands not know about it? And who was Qin Wenyan? He once caused a huge commotion in the myriad Devil Islands. In fact, back then when the Evergreen Kingdom surrounded Qin Wenyan, all the Devil Halls gathered here. Even the Judiciary Devil Hall, Apostle Devil Hall and Myriad Ancient Devil Hall personally participated in that war of geniuses. Qin Wenyan stared at the experts of the various Devil Halls waiting for him at the peak of the Devil Mountain. Those who appeared at the forefront were actually all Devil Emperors. From this, one could very well imagine how highly they regarded Qin Wenyan. Right now, Qin Wenyan's fame was simply too resounding. He traversed space to kill old Devil Duo Tian, destroying his lair. He traveled tens of thousands of miles to the desolate mountains and captured 2 demon kings, plucking their hair and tendons. How terrifying was this? Right now, no matter where he went, that place would tremble, even if it was the myriad Devil Islands. In the direction of the Judiciary Devil Hall, a slender figure clad in blood-colored robes walked out. She had a blood-colored laurel crown on her head and took off her mask, revealing a flawlessly beautiful countenance. The cold and emotionless Grand Priestess of Judgment was actually crying at this moment. Her eyes were red as she stared in a daze at the white-robed figure in front of her. Qin Wenyan stared at Bai Qing. No matter what Bai Qing's identity was, no matter how much her aura changed in his eyes, she was still the same as before. She was still that pure and adorable little lass Bai Qing. Little lass Bai Qing, don't you recognize me? Qin Wenyan involuntarily laughed when he saw Bai Qing still standing there staring at him in a daze. When Bai Qing heard Qin Wenyan's voice, she felt as though she was dreaming. Her silhouette flashed and directly rushed to Qin Wenyan's side. Her speed was so fast that it caused people to be speechless. If it was an ordinary character, he would have been sent flying by her. However, Qin Wenyan merely smiled dotingly. He hugged Bai Qing and patted her head. Wenyan Gidge. Bai Qing's eyes turned red as she cried. Back then when she saw Qin Wenyan being killed in front of everyone in the Evergreen Kingdom, the despair in her heart was unimaginable. Now that she saw Qin Wenyan standing in front of her, Bai Qing felt as though she was in a dream. If this was really a dream, she would rather be immersed in it and never wake up. Everyone stared at Bai Qing as their hearts trembled. Right now, the Grand Priestess of Blood was extremely famous in the myriad Devil Islands. However, she was like a little girl jumping into the embrace of the white-robed young man. This scene was extremely shocking to many. It was simply unimaginable. This was especially so for those who weren't familiar with Qin Wenyan. Their hearts were filled with fear. Outrageous. As a high priestess, you actually don't care about your status when you do things. How shameful. A cold voice drifted over, interrupting this moment of warmth. Bai Qing came out from Qin Wenyan's embrace and glanced at the person who spoke. Her eyes flashed with a blood-red light, terrifying to the extreme. Just when she wanted to step out, she saw Qin Wenyan holding her hand. She then turned her head and stared at Qin Wenyan. Wenyan Gidge. Let me handle it. Qin Wendian smiled. Enchim. Bai Qing nodded. Oi, your life is really tough. You didn't die even after that. A voice drifted over. Qin Wenyan stared at the figure who walked out from the myriad ancient devil hall. Bujie's extraordinary demeanor was getting more and more handsome. However, when he thought of Bujie's lustful nature in the past, he couldn't help but to laugh. Seems like you are living quite comfortably on the myriad devil islands. You actually haven't returned to the Buddhist sect yet. Most probably, there are no Buddhist rules here. No one can restrict you from peeking at beauties bathing. Bullshit. How can this emperor be such a lecherous person? Bujie's face turned black. This Qin Wenyan actually dared to expose him in public? No matter what, he was still a devil emperor of the myriad ancient devil hall. Wasn't this a little too much? What was even stranger was that at this moment, there were a few beautiful devil emperors staring at Bujie, their eyes gleaming with coldness, causing Bujie to shiver. Qin Wenyan, the sacred ground of the Devil Mountain isn't a place for you to spout nonsense. Stop acting atrociously here. An expert from the Darkness Devil Hall stared at Qin Wenyan, his eyes filled with unfriendliness. Qin Wenyan coming to the Devil Mountain caused a bad feeling to appear in their hearts. Ancient, sacred ground of the Devil Mountain. Let's talk about this later. Qin Wenyan glanced in the direction of the Darkness Devil Hall. After that, he spoke. Back then when I entered the Saint Devil Hall, I obtained the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign. Because my cultivation base was weak back then, I didn't say much. Now that I've returned, I'm here to inherit the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign and take over the position of the myriad devil sovereign. He came to the Devil Mountain for the sake of becoming the myriad devil island lord. After stepping into the Empyrean realm, he understood the meaning of the inheritance of the myriad devil islands. The art of control, able to control all devils. What was this? Wasn't this the ability of Empyreans? Giving birth to laws and controlling all laws? This was the inheritance path of ancient emperors, similar to Tao elements. At the same time, it was also the inheritance of the throne of the myriad devil islands. A single sentence from Qin Wenyan caused the entire Devil Mountain to fall silent. Even Bujie shuddered as he shrank back. This fellow was simply too audacious. The moment he came to the Devil Mountain, he immediately said that he wanted to become the Devil Mountain Lord. Wasn't this a little too brazen? Bujie had always been in awe of Qin Wenyan's ferocity. Who would have thought that Qin Wenyan was even more ferocious than what he had imagined? The old man from the Apostle Devil Hall laughed as he stared at Qin Wenyan. Beside him was that apostle who had some fate with Qin Wenyan back then. When he stared at Qin Wenyan, his eyes also gleamed with a strange light. This fellow was truly unbridled. Why is the Judiciary Devil Hall still watching? A devil monarch from the Darkness Devil Hall coldly spoke. At this moment, if the Judiciary Devil Hall acted, they would directly take Qin Wenyan's life. How can you prove it? At this moment, a voice rang out. The Judiciary Devil Hall Lord personally walked over and asked. Emichim? The eyes of the other Devil Halls flashed. What did the Judiciary Devil Hall Lord mean by this? Mph. A cold snort rang out, only to see a black-robed figure walking out. This figure was a powerful Devil Lord who was enveloped in darkness. He then spoke, I really want to see how the famous Qin Wenyan of the Immortal Realms dares to say such disgraceful words in our myriad devil islands. As he spoke, a terrifying darkness law body appeared. It was like a devil king of darkness, slamming out towards Qin Wenyan, exuding a heaven-shaking might. Qin Wenyan took a step forward. Towering devil might gushed forth from him as he stared at the darkness devil king. With just a single glance, the Darkness Devil King froze there, unable to move. Showing disrespect to the myriad devil sovereign. Die. Qin Wenyan coldly spoke. The Darkness Devil King moved again. Its palms actually blasted out towards the devil monarch who summoned it. The countenance of the devil monarch drastically changed. Boundless devil might gushed forth from him, but all his attacks were destroyed. The devil might from his body gushed forth uncontrollably, and with a thunderous boom, the Darkness Devil King slammed down, directly killing him on the spot. As for the Darkness Devil King, it was destroyed as well. Chapter 1687. My will is the law. The inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign can allow one to reach above the immortal emperor realm. Qin Wenyan has already comprehended the source origins of the devil path. In addition to the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign, it was as easy as flipping his palms to deal with the experts of the myriad devil islands. These people actually dared to use devil techniques before him? They were simply courting death. The people from the myriad devil islands felt their hearts trembling when they saw a powerful devil lord unable to withstand a single strike from Qin Wenyan. In fact, he was even killed by Qin Wentian's own strength. This expert who caused the entire immortal realms to tremble was simply too terrifying. Little last Qin, you and Qingqing should all retreat a little. Qin Wentian spoke. After that, Bai Qing and the other two retreated. She naturally believed in her Wentian Gige. She had never doubted his talent. Since her Wentian Gige wants to become the myriad devil sovereign, she would naturally support him fully. For those who don't believe me, you can attack me together. I will let you all see what a true devil sovereign is. Qin Wentian spoke. After that, he stretched his palms out and in an instant, the entire devil mountain trembled as a terrifying devil might gushed forth. On the mountain, countless experts from the devil halls inclined their heads and stared in the direction of the peak. After that, they only saw devil clouds churning in the air. At this instant, from the various devil halls, boundless devil light shot out frenziedly. It was like all the devil energy in the halls was under Qin Wentian's control, gushing out ferociously. The sky darkened. In the air, boundless devil might gathered together, transforming into a terrifying throne of the devil sovereign, towering in the air. Only to see Qin Wentian slowly floating up and sitting on the throne of the devil island. A supreme devil might gushed forth from him. His gigantic frame was like a true devil lord, peering down with disdain at the world. Rise! He coldly snorted. In an instant, in the depths of the Imperial Dragon Devil Hall, numerous thunderous dragon roars rang out. After that, the crowd only saw numerous black dragons soaring into the air, instantly appearing above Qin Wentian as they circled around him, bowing their heads in submission. The expressions of the experts from the Imperial Dragon Devil Hall froze as their bodies trembled. Come here. Qin Wentian turned his gaze in the direction of the heavenly demon palace. Over there, an incomparably resplendent light erupted forth as the demonic dragon soared into the skies. After that, it transformed into an incomparably resplendent beam of light. The demonic dragon transformed into a demonic saber and rushed towards Qin Wentian with lightning speed. That was an extremely terrifying demonic treasure saber. Qin Wentian stretched out his hand and pressed it under his palm. Qin Wentian's demonic body became more and more majestic. The experts on the mountain trembled even more violently. Qin Wentian turned his gaze once more in the direction of the Darkness Devil Hall. Over there, rumbling sounds rang out as a palace directly crumbled apart. An incomparably terrifying Devil King cloak of darkness flew out, flying towards Qin Wentian, who was seated on the throne and draped itself over Qin Wentian's back. Devil King cloak. The people from the Darkness Devil Hall trembled as they stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. However, this didn't stop. Qin Wentian turned his gaze in the direction of the myriad ancient devil hall, only to see a terrifying ancient devil will radiating forth. After that, a towering devil might towered up into the sky as numerous figures of ancient devil kings appeared in the air. They instantly appeared beside Qin Wentian, protecting him. These ancient devil kings now transformed into devil generals, protecting the devil sovereign. Qin Wentian stared at the Judiciary Devil Hall. A terrifying blood-red lightning of judgment shot over, revolving around Qin Wentian, like a law that could judge everything in the world. There was also a blood-red scepter floating in the air. Finally, Qin Wentian turned his gaze to the Apostle Devil Hall. At this moment, a beam of light shot up into the sky as a treasured light flew out, landing on Qin Wentian's head. That was a crown. At this moment, Qin Wentian had completely transformed into the myriad devil sovereign, the ruler of all devils for thousands of years. The experts from the various devil halls below the mountains stared up into the air. All of them were so shocked that their souls were about to scatter. Their bodies trembled violently. "My lord has descended." Someone knelt on the ground, his voice trembling. "To think that there would be a day where I can see the glory of the devil sovereign." Another old man trembled as he knelt in the direction of Qin Wenyin. After that, countless devil cultivators from the devil halls below also knelt on the ground, increasing in number. Not long after, all the devil cultivators on the mountain were kneeling in submission, worshipping the devil sovereign. The inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign, this was the best proof. Even the experts from the 6 devil halls were speechless from shock. After that, an old man from the Apostle Devil Hall walked up and bowed to Qin Wenyin. "The Apostle Devil Hall has protected the crown of the devil sovereign for countless years. Now that the devil sovereign has returned, our mission has finally been accomplished." The Apostle Devil Hall submitted, willing to serve Qin Wenyin as their lord. The Judiciary Devil Hall lord walked up and bowed, "I pay my respects to the devil sovereign." The myriad ancient Devil Hall lord appeared and bowed respectfully. When the Darkness Devil Hall, Sky Devil Hall and Imperial Dragon Devil Hall saw this scene, they knew that this was the trend. They had no choice but to submit even if they didn't want to. In any case, who would be able to resist Qin Wentian's current strength? He didn't expect that back then when he ascended the Devil Mountain, he would really obtain the inheritance of the myriad Devil Sovereign, leading to the changes today. Is there anyone who isn't convinced and isn't willing to serve me as the Devil Sovereign? Step out now and I will grant you your freedom. Qin Wentian spoke. At this moment, he was the true Devil Sovereign, peering down at the world, staring down at the countless devil cultivators of the myriad devil islands. Nobody spoke. Right now, who else would be able to help him gain the upper hand? Since there's no one who isn't convinced, I won't bother about the grudges of the past. But from now onwards, if there's anyone who dares to disobey my orders, the Judiciary Devil Hall will execute them with no mercy. Qin Wenyin coldly spoke, exuding incomparable imposingness. Right now, he was the lord of a devil palace and had towering authority. He naturally had the aura of a ruler. "We obey the devil sovereign's order." The Judiciary Devil Hall lord bowed. Qin Wenyin swept his gaze over everyone, causing their hearts to tremble. He then spoke, "Gather the devil emperors of the various regions and prepare to head to the immortal realms. I want to unify Azure Mystic." The people of the myriad devil islands felt their hearts trembling when they heard this. All of them inclined their heads and stared in shock at the figure of the devil sovereign. Not only did he want to become the myriad devil sovereign, he even wanted to unify Azure Mystic, becoming the lord of all immortals, demons and devils. Yes. The various devil hall lords nodded. They were all thinking that seems like Qin Wenyin has already reached that level. If not, he wouldn't have the ambition to unify the entire world. "Rise, all of you." Qin Wentian's voice rang out. "Thank you, Devil Sovereign." On the Devil Mountain, numerous figures stood up, their eyes still staring at the supreme figure in the air. The boundless devil might vanished. Qin Wentian kept the treasures on him. The throne dissipated as Qin Wentian floated in the air. "Everyone, return to your positions and do your own things." The experts bowed and retreated. The shock in their hearts didn't fade even after a long time. Bai Qing came up and hugged onto Qin Wentian's arm as she giggled. "Wenyin Gage, in the future when I see you, do I have to bow and pay my respects?" Staring at the mischievous smile on Bai Qing's face, Qin Wenyin smiled and pinched her cheeks. "You are the younger sister of the Devil Sovereign, there's naturally no need for that." "Hee hee." Bai Qing laughed happily. She then glanced at Qing'e and Qing'e, elder sister Qing'e, elder sister Qingqing. The two of them smiled and nodded to Bai Qing. After that, Bai Qing pulled the two of them along. "I will bring you 2 elder sisters to the myriad devil islands for a walk. Let's ignore him." "Sure." Mo Qingqing smiled at Qin Wenyin. Qing'e also followed behind Bai Qing. Qin Wenyin shrugged as a helpless expression appeared on his face. The 3 of them were like a drama. Qin Wenyin didn't stay for too long on the Devil Mountain. Compared to the myriad devil islands, the Evergreen Kingdom was the true center of the whirlpool. Right now, All the hegemonic powers of the immortal realms were staring at him. He had to stay in the Evergreen Kingdom to prevent any accidents from happening. Qin Wenyan didn't know that after he left, many devil cultivators from the Devil Mountain descended the mountain and came to the fallen devil region. Today in the Celestial Devil Lodge, many powerful devil cultivators suddenly appeared. The Lodge Lord of the Fallen Devil region personally accompanied the Fallen Devil Emperor, causing a commotion in the Celestial Devil Lodge. The Lodge Lord led everyone out to welcome them. Her heart was filled with shock and bewilderment. She didn't know what the intentions of these people were. Even the Fallen Devil Emperor had to accompany them. What sort of status did they have exactly? The person in the lead was a female with an extraordinary demeanor. She asked, "Is Lady Xenu here?" "Xenu again?" The Lodge Lord of the Celestial Devil Lodge felt even more bewildered in her heart. "I will send someone to call her over." "No need, bring me to pay my respects to Lady Xenu." The female spoke. Great waves rose in the heart of the Lodge Lord. The other party used the word, "pay my respects." The Lodge Lord of the Celestial Devil Lodge nodded. After that, she brought the woman into the lodge alone and found Xenu. Xenu turned her gaze to the Lodge Lord. However, she only heard the female speaking, "Lady Xenu, I come from the Devil Mountain." The Lodge Lord of the Celestial Devil Lodge felt her heart pounding violently. On the Devil Mountain, Xenu naturally knew of the legends of the myriad Devil Islands. The Devil Mountain was the sacred ground of the myriad Devil Islands. "The Devil Sovereign ordered me to come and fetch you. Is Lady Xenu willing to head to the Devil Mountain?" That female spoke. In truth, this wasn't an order from Qin Wenyan. It was something Mo Qingqing and Qing'er told Bai Qing privately back then. After that, Bai Qing ordered them to come here. Qin Wenyan didn't know of this. But Xinu didn't understand. "This is the Devil Sovereign's wish." That female spoke. The Lodge Lord and Xenu's hearts trembled again. They didn't dare to imagine why the Devil Sovereign would pay attention to Xenu. "I don't understand." Xenu shook her head. "The name of the Devil Sovereign is Qin Wenyan." The female spoke. Xenu felt as though she was struck by lightning. She stood there in a daze, not knowing how to think. "I'm not going." Xenu turned and directly ran out. Her eyes were filled with tears. Did he really sit on the throne in the air, staring down at the world? She said before that she wasn't worthy to sit beside him. "Xenu." The Lodge Lord chased after her. The female from the Devil Mountain was stunned. After that, she sighed and brought her people away. A similar scene also happened in the Blackstone Devil sect. When the third princess Yen Yurua heard that someone from the Devil Mountain personally came to fetch her, waves of shock rose in her heart. The Devil Sovereign actually sent someone to fetch her to the Devil Mountain for cultivation? When she heard the name of the Devil Sovereign, her beautiful eyes froze. After that, she giggled and agreed. If she could head to the Devil Mountain for cultivation, why wouldn't she go? In addition, that fellow was the Devil Sovereign now. This was simply like a dream. Chapter 1688. Xanu and Yen Yurua were different. To Xanu, she did have a relationship with Qin Wenyan before. But that was under the situation where Qin Wenyan was injured. Qin Wenyan didn't realize it at that time. Even if he came to see her and wanted to bring her back, it was only because he felt guilty towards her and not because of love. In addition, she also felt inferior. Right now, Qin Wenyan was truly sitting on the throne. He was the myriad Devil Sovereign. How could she have the qualifications to stand beside him? She might as well silently give him her blessings. Yen Yurua was different. She was treated as a devilish female by Qin Wenyan and had a carefree personality. She once had a relationship with Qin Wenyan and naturally had feelings for Qin Wenyan. However, she also understood that Qin Wenyan and her weren't people from the same world. Although she had feelings for him in her heart, she would hide these thoughts. Naturally, if she met Qin Wenyan, so what if she teased him occasionally? Although he was already the myriad Devil Sovereign, it wasn't like she hadn't done it before in the past. She even hugged the myriad Devil Sovereign before. Letting her go to the Devil Mountain for cultivation, there might be traces of him there. In addition, There was such a good cultivation environment there. Why should she reject? Hence, between Xan Yu and Yen Yurua, there were two different choices. Qin Wenyan had no idea about all of this. He had already returned to the Evergreen Kingdom. There seemed to be a period of peace in the immortal realms. Many peak characters in the city of ancient emperors all left the city and returned to their clans. The news of Qin Wentian's return was naturally circulated to them. Right now, everyone was quietly waiting for the storm that would ravage the immortal realms. The gathering point of this storm would be the same as 100 years ago, the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. However, would the ending be the same? With regards to this point, no one knew. Everyone had different opinions. In the northern regions, there were currently two alliances. One was formed by the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, the 100 Refinements sect, and the Jadestige sect. They were incomparably tyrannical and were defending against the invasion of the demonic races. The other alliance was formed by other Empyreans like GD and their disciples. Their strength wasn't any weaker compared to the alliance of the three peak powers of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. This alliance was known as the Chaotic Sky sect. Coincidentally, the chaotic world was so chaotic, they had no choice but to form an alliance to prevent themselves from being devoured. The overall situation of the immortal realms was like this. Even for a single peak power, they didn't have absolute confidence that they would be able to stand stably in this chaotic world. During these years, there were already many peak powers that declined or were even destroyed, retreating from the historical stage of the immortal realms. The most obvious example was the peak powers in the eastern regions of the immortal realms. At this moment, an immortal emperor from the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom came to pay a visit. The person who came said that he came from the Evergreen Kingdom and was on the orders of Qin Wenyan. What sort of character was Qin Wenyan now? He naturally reported this matter to the Dark North Immortal Emperor, and the Dark North Immortal Emperor personally received the envoy. The person who came was none other than Su Li. He had followed Qin Wenyan for many years. From the time Qin Wenyan was appointed as the northern governor until today, he had witnessed Qin Wentian's growth. Right now, he could be considered one of Qin Wentian's trusted aides. His loyalty to Qin Wenyan even surpassed his loyalty to Yi Qianyu. The Dark North Immortal Emperor brought Baiming Nongyue to meet with Su Li. Right now, Baiming Nongyue was even more radiant than before. She was already married to Li Yufeng, and this marriage was the foundation of the alliance between the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and the 100 Refinements sect. Su Li pays his respects to the Dark North Immortal Emperor. Su Li clasped his fists. Given his status, there was originally no need for him to be so polite to an immortal emperor from a lower world. But this was something Qin Wenyan had instructed him to do. The Dark North Immortal Emperor could feel Su Li's politeness. He felt puzzled in his heart as he asked, "Sir, what are you here for?" "Palace Lord ordered me to come here to pass on a message that Princess Kitamura is doing well." Palace Lord initially wanted to pay a visit personally, but now is a time of trouble. After this matter calms down, he would personally pay a visit to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and allow His Majesty to communicate with Princess Kitamura. Right now, if His Majesty has anything to say to me, Palace Lord can directly pass the message to Princess Kitamura. Su Li didn't beat around the bush and directly spoke. Given the relationship between Qin Wenyan and Princess Kitamura, he should have personally made a trip here. But with the chaos in the immortal realms, Qin Wenyan didn't dare to move around recklessly. When he headed to the Myriad Devil Islands, he directly ordered his subordinates to construct a spatial teleportation array. Hence, he sent Su Li here to pass the message. After all, Qin Wenyan wanted to tell the Dark North Immortal Emperor that they were on the same side. He didn't want the Dark North Immortal Emperor to be incited by others to act against him. Clearly, this wasn't something Qin Wenyan wanted to see. "Where is my elder sister now?" Baiming Nongyue's beautiful eyes gleamed like gems as she hurriedly asked before the Dark North Immortal Emperor could. "In the supreme ancient immortal realms, in the lifelong realm. As for the exact location, even Palace Lord isn't sure." Su Li stared at Baiming Nongyue as he spoke. "Can Qin Wenyan really communicate with my elder sister through space?" Baiming Nongyue asked again. There are messaging crystals in the supreme ancient immortal realms. No matter how far away they are, they would be able to communicate through their immortal sense. Su Li nodded. The Dark North Immortal Emperor nodded. Thank you for your hard work. No worries. I'll bid my farewell then. Su Li clasped his hands and turned to depart, not staying any longer. Nongyue, do you think this matter is real or fake? The Dark North Immortal Emperor asked. Father, Qin Wenyan wouldn't lie to us. Baiming Nongyue directly spoke. Her relationship with Qin Wenyan wasn't bad. Although back then, Princess Kitamura and Qin Wenyan had some conflicts in the royal palace. Since Qin Wenyan sent someone to relay this message, it must be real. That last Yu Huang ran away with that fellow Qin Wenyan back then? A strange expression appeared on the Dark North Immortal Emperor's face. That last didn't say this before she left. Baiming Nongyue also felt strange. She blinked and smiled. Since elder sister is fine, we can set our hearts at ease. I'm preparing to make a trip to the Evergreen Kingdom with Yu Feng in advance. The Dark North Immortal Emperor glanced at Baiming Nongyue as he smiled and nodded. You are friends with Qin Wenyan, it's only appropriate for you to make a trip there. After several days, Li Yufeng and Baiming Nongyue silently arrived at the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. Qin Wenyan was naturally very happy to see his old friends visiting. Back then, he was already very fond of Li Yufeng and Baiming Nongyue. Now that he heard that they were already married, he was naturally very happy. Li Yufeng and Baiming Nongyue had a different feeling. Back then, they were characters of the same generation as Qin Wenyan. In fact, from a certain perspective, their starting point was even higher. But now, they discovered that the disparity between them was like the heavens and the earth. Although Qin Wenyan still treated them as friends and treated them warmly, Qin Wenyan, Qing'er and Qingqing accompanied the two of them during the banquet. But when they saw the immortal emperors around them, they couldn't help but feel a sense of sorrow in their hearts. Back then, Qin Wenyan was a character with extremely high potential. But in a grand battle in the immortal realms, many geniuses died. However, he actually didn't die. Now that he returned, Qin Wenyan was no longer a so-called heaven's chosen. He was a character that truly stood at the peak of the immortal realms. When they arrived, they even saw a terrifying Forok and a golden sun beast. Those were the kings of the two races. Yet, Qin Wenyan directly killed his way to their doors and captured them. How imposing was this? He was truly unparalleled in the immortal realms. Even though Li Yufeng's talent was unparalleled, in front of Qin Wenyan, he had no temper at all. After the banquet, through Qin Wentian's words, Baiming Nongyue and Princess Kitamura conversed. Qin Wenyan gave the two of them some cultivation resources, saying that this was something Baiming Nongyue wanted to give to her younger sister. Baiming Nongyue couldn't possibly reject it, right? He naturally gave some messaging crystals to them. After that, the two of them left in a low-profile manner. After all, Qin Wenyan had too many enemies in the immortal realms now. Before everything ends, Qin Wenyan didn't want to implicate them. The time left until the appointed date with Qin Wenyan was about to arrive. In the originally desolate royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, it was unknown how many experts were gathered here. They rushed over from all directions, preparing to witness the grand event of the immortal realms. After 200 years, a world-shaking battle was about to occur again. They naturally couldn't miss it. Naturally, those with weaker strength wouldn't dare to come. They wouldn't be able to endure the aftershocks of the battle. For those who came, the weakest among them was at least at the Immortal Foundation realm. Even during the golden age of the immortal realms, the royal capital had never been so lively before. In the inns and inns, it was unknown how many people were discussing the major events of the immortal realms. Qin Wenyan has returned and invited all the hegemonic powers of the immortal realms to gather. Seems like he's extremely confident and wants revenge. Yeah, Qin Wenyan was already a supreme genius back then, slaying immortal emperors as an immortal king. Now that he's now at the peak stage of immortal kings, who can contend against him? Old Devil Duo Tian and the others even wanted to probe him and were directly hunted down by him. The kings of the Forok race and Sun Gold Demon race were all so powerful, Yet they were directly captured into the Evergreen Kingdom Palace and tortured miserably. From my point of view, Qin Wenyan most probably will become a king of the immortal realms, becoming an ancient emperor character. What nonsense! Someone coldly spoke. Qin Wenyan is too arrogant, actually inviting all the hegemonic powers of the immortal realms. Even if he has the help of the Namhuang clan and GD, how can he contend against the entire immortal realms? Don't forget that even for those peak powers who have no grudges with Qin Wenyan, they wouldn't allow Qin Wenyan to dominate the immortal realms. That's right. Qin Wenyan wants to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, allowing his subordinates to control the immortal realms. Wouldn't the others have to submit to him? Many people agreed. Such voices rang out in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, saying that Qin Wenyan wanted to dominate the immortal realms. Clearly, there were people who intentionally spread this news, wanting those powers who were on the fence to act against Qin Wenyan. After all, right now in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, the juniors of the major powers of the immortal realms have already arrived. Naturally, one couldn't help but to say that their guesses weren't wrong. All of this was a competition in the dark. In addition, many people didn't feel that Qin Wenyan truly had the ability to dominate the immortal realms. Although his performance was extremely powerful, one mustn't forget that there was still a major power like the immortal Qianbian Gate in the immortal realms. Also, there were rumors that the Sanluo Immortal Empire had existences that surpassed the immortal Emperor realm. Back then, it was precisely because of this that Qin Wenyan took the initiative to submit. Amidst all sorts of guesses and discussions, the appointed date finally arrived. Today, the entire world was paying attention to it. Chapter 1689. In the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Today, the sky was covered by a layer of dark clouds, exuding an oppressive aura. The royal palace has already been rebuilt. It stood in the center of the royal capital, as though it was isolated from the world. With the royal palace as the center, it was unknown how many experts have arrived. With a single glance, countless experts could be seen. Regardless of whether they were on the ground or in the air, or even above the clouds, all of them were Immortal Foundation experts, wuxiu. Today was destined to be an extraordinary day. Today, the entire immortal realms would tremble. The structure of the immortal realms would be redefined. Someone said that Qin Wenyan would suppress all the major powers in the immortal realms, becoming the hegemon of the world, unifying Azure Mystic and reproducing the glory of the ancient emperors. However, there were also people who said that the immortal Qianbian Gate today was just a decoration. Another voice said that the Sanluo Immortal Empire clearly knew that Qin Wenyan was incomparably domineering, yet they still told Qin Wenyan to scram and submit. What confidence did they have? It was said that when Qin Wenyan invited the major powers of the immortal realms to gather in the Evergreen Kingdom, the Sanluo Immortal Empire didn't panic at all. Everything was done in an orderly manner. This was news that the vast majority of people knew about. There was also another piece of news. It was rumored that there were people from the upper world who came to the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Qin Wenyan was none other than someone from the upper world. These people who came from the upper world were all incomparably powerful. In fact, many peak powers in Azure Mystic were merely the inheritances they left behind in the lower world. Some people said that the Ying clan that was destroyed by the Namhuang clan and Qin Wenyan belonged to this category. Also, right now, experts from the Ying clan from the upper world have already arrived, preparing to take revenge today. They wanted to raise the Evergreen Kingdom Palace to flat ground, turning this majestic palace into history. There were even more arrogant voices saying that today, all the major powers in the immortal realms would gather here. However, it wasn't because they were afraid of Qin Wenyan, nor was it because they wanted to deal with Qin Wenyan. Their purpose was to take this opportunity to gather together with the major powers of the immortal realms and contend for hegemony. What other time was more suitable than this? Such an opportunity was created for them by Qin Wenyan. They knew how to seize it. In the royal palace of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, Qin Wenyan stood there with his hands clasped behind his back, casually standing there. His white robes fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were as deep as the starry skies, as resplendent as the constellations. The white-haired killing goddess, Evergreen Qin, had a gentle look on her face as she quietly stood beside Qin Wenyin. Not far away, Mo Qingqing sat together with the Jiran sisters, quietly watching Qin Wentian's silhouette. Wenyin, the various powers are already rushing over here. At this moment, Princess Changping came over and reported. Got it, Aunt? Qin Wenyan smiled as he called out, directly addressing her as Aunt. Princess Changping smiled and nodded. The white-robed young man exuded an unparalleled magnificence. Back then, even that battle couldn't claim his life, let alone today. Not far away, numerous figures could be seen walking over, all of them arriving at Qin Wentian's side. Chongqing the Great, GD, Emperor Yu, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch, and the immortal emperors of the Battle Saint tribe. Their auras were all solemn, ready for battle at any moment. And now, these hegemonic characters whose names shook the entire immortal realms all treated Qin Wenyan as their leader. But even so, they still felt a pressure as heavy as a mountain. This battle was destined to not be easy. Seniors, there's no need to be so nervous. After this battle, no one would dare to offend our empire anymore. Qin Wenyan smiled. His voice contained a hint of confidence, a confidence that towered up into the heavens. Everyone nodded, they didn't say anything more. They quietly walked to the side of Qin Wenyan. The young man from before had unknowingly become their strongest and most resolute arm. He stood there, exuding the strength of his character. White-robed elegance, what can the world do to me? All of a sudden, a commotion rang out from afar. Someone exclaimed in shock, the Sinluo immortal empire has arrived. This voice swiftly rang out, causing countless gazes to turn to the west. Over there, a group of experts could be seen riding on carriages. Many of them were immortal kings and emperors. It was unknown how terrifying their auras were. There was only a single carriage, but because this carriage was simply too large, there were 8 true dragons pulling it. How majestic was this scene! Hence, from the perspective of everyone, the people of the Sinluo immortal empire seemed to be riding on a carriage. However, there was only a single person sitting on the carriage, and this person wasn't the Sinluo emperor. Because the Sinluo emperor, the supreme ruler of the Sinluo immortal empire, was currently standing at the side. In that case, what status did the person in the carriage have? How powerful would he be? Qin Wentian's expression was incomparably calm when he saw this scene. Although he already knew the answer, he was still as calm as ever. As the news that the person in the carriage was the Sinluo immortal emperor circulated out, a huge commotion broke out in the crowd. Countless people were shocked. This was definitely a shocking piece of news, sufficient to cause the entire immortal realms to tremble. Could it be that this was the reason why the Sinluo immortal empire wanted Qin Wenyan to go there to apologize and submit? Back then, even that didn't kill you. Your life is truly tough. But this time around, you won't be able to escape even if you grow wings. The Sinluo immortal emperor coldly spoke. The supreme crown prince of the Sinluo immortal empire was killed by Qin Wenyan. How could he forget this grudge? Initially, he thought that Qin Wenyan was already dead and his revenge was over. But he didn't expect that not only did Qin Wenyan not die, he even came back to take revenge in less than 200 years. Your life won't be as tough as mine. Hence, you will die today. Qin Wenyan calmly spoke as he stared at the Sinluo immortal emperor. It was like a single glance was enough to determine the fate of the Sinluo immortal emperor, causing the hearts of many to tremble. Where did Qin Wentian's confidence originate from? Another group of experts flew over, each of them from a different faction. There were a total of 3 factions, and their auras were so strong that they could crush the heavens and earth. This was especially so for one of the factions. The people from one of the factions seemed to be bathed in the sun, their bodies burning with flames. Everywhere they passed by, the air would sizzle from the heat. These people were none other than the people from the Sacred Sun sect. The sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect had personally arrived. Although the other 2 groups didn't directly release their auras, the formless pressure they exuded caused the crowd to feel a stifling pressure. The Shooting Sun Kingdom and the Thunder God Hall arrived together. These people who arrived earlier were all from the major powers of the central regions of the immortal realms. Brother Qin, it has been many years since we last met. You are even more radiant than before. I'm truly impressed. A voice filled with respect drifted over. After that, another group of experts arrived. There weren't many of them, but all of them were elites. They were from the Jiang clan of the southern regions. And the person who spoke was none other than Jiang Zihua of the Jiang clan. Back then, he was also a peak-level genius of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Qin Wenyan glanced at Jiang Zihua and didn't say anything. He didn't like the two brothers, Jiang Zihua and Jiang Ziyu. Right now, he couldn't even be bothered to feign civility. The Snowdrift Sacred Sect, Nibblesky Sacred Sect, Wenxin Temple have all arrived. More and more major powers arrived. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze in the direction of Wenxin Temple. He bowed to the person in the lead. Qin Wenyan pays his respects to the Reverend. This Reverend was none other than the Reverend from Wenxin Temple who had helped Qin Wenyan before. He pressed his palms together and faced Qin Wenyan. Benefactor Qin, there's no need to be so polite. The major powers of the northern regions have arrived. At this moment, another 3 major powers formed an alliance and arrived here. One of them was actually comprised entirely of beauties, and there was no lack of supreme beauties among them, so beautiful that it caused people to feel stifled. These people naturally came from the Jadestige Immortal Palace of the northern regions. The palace mistress of the Jadestige Immortal Palace sat in a sedan. Her face was veiled, exuding an ethereal aura. One could faintly see her flawless curves. The palace mistress of the Jadestige Immortal Palace was an extremely rare beauty in the world. There were several holy maidens surrounding the sedan, each of them were supreme beauties, causing people to be pleasing to the eye, living up to the name of the Jadestige Immortal Palace. As for the other 2 powers, they were naturally allies of the Dark North Immortal Empire and the 100 Refinements sect. Li Yufeng and Baiming Nongyue were among them. They nodded to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze to the Dark North Immortal Emperor as he nodded back. In the air, the clouds churned as a terrifying aura descended from the sky. After that, a group of extremely powerful experts descended from the sky. There were many immortal emperors in this group, and their strength wasn't any weaker compared to the alliance formed by the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, 100 Refinements sect, and Jadestige Immortal Palace. The Chaotic Sky sect, I wonder if they are friend or foe. Chongqing the Great introduced to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wenyan nodded lightly. He saw a familiar face in the Chaotic Sky sect, Pei Qing. In addition, Pei Qing's status wasn't low. He stood at the front of the Chaotic Sky sect, beside an old man. Back then in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Pei Qing had an extraordinary status and was the personal disciple of a major character. Most probably, this old man was none other than his master. Pei Qing naturally also saw Qin Wenyan. As expected of a supreme genius, he was the youngest immortal emperor in the history of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom before Princess Kitamura. Not long ago, he had already broken through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm and was extremely famous. However, he didn't expect that Qin Wenyan actually didn't die, and after he returned, the entire immortal realms were shaken. Other than these supreme powers, there were also many unaffiliated immortal emperors who came. Today, the Evergreen Kingdom would decide the situation in the immortal realms. Su Qingyao followed her parents here. When she saw Qin Wenyan, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. At this moment, in the air, demonic qi towered up into the sky, enveloping everything. Numerous greater demons blotted out the sky, causing the sun and moon to lose their radiance. Forok race, Sun Gold Demon race, Void Beast race. Everyone inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The experts of the Forok race and Sun Gold Demon race stood in the air, radiating intense killing intent. Their king was just below, on the verge of death. After that, the Evil God race, Heavenhold race, Netherworld Ao, Baze, Dragon race, Nine-Tailed Demon Fox, Devil Ape, Tai, Xiongqi, White Tiger, Swanee, and many others arrived one after another. For a period of time, the sky changed color. The demonic might they exuded was so strong that it caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. During these years, the demonic races have wreaked havoc, conquering half of the human world. In fact, there was even a great war between humans and demons, causing the demons to be more low-profile. If the demons joined forces, the entire immortal realms would tremble. Qin Wenin glanced at the greater demons in the air as his expression turned cold. Qin Wenin, today shall be the day of your death. A cold and demonic voice drifted over. In this chaotic space, it was unknown where this voice originated from. Chapter 1690. Qin Wenin stared at the air as he coldly spoke. Which bastard dares to speak in front of me? The aura in the air was violent to the extreme. No demons replied. Numerous demonic beasts descended from the sky, each of them belonging to a different faction. These demonic races all exuded a stifling pressure. Naturally, there were also demonic beasts that were pleasing to the eye. For example, the nine-tailed fox race. Their bodies were clad in white and were incomparably beautiful. This was especially so for the fox goddess. Her aura was so dazzling that no demons could compare to her. Forok race, sun gold demon race. Seems like you guys didn't take my words back then to heart. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Even now, little rascal still hasn't appeared. The greater demons of the Forok race and sun gold demon race walked out. Terrifying auras bore down from the sky, enveloping the entire Evergreen Kingdom Palace. The majestic royal palace at this moment seemed extremely tiny and inconsequential. In the face of so many experts from the immortal realms, it was as though it could be destroyed at any moment. Release the king of my race. A peak-stage demon emperor from the Forok race coldly spoke. His wings blotted out the sun, resembling the clouds in the sky. His eyes shone with golden flames, terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wentian's eyes were cold as he spoke. Since this is the case, make your move then. Yes, Palace Lord. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a group of immortal emperors in the royal palace flickered and appeared before the two demonic beasts with weak auras. Their divine weapons glowed with resplendent light as they directly attacked the two demonic kings, plucking their feathers, pulling out their tendons, breaking their wings. In an instant, the two supreme greater demons screamed in agony. Even though they were heavily injured, they couldn't endure such a hellish torture. In the air, the demonic beasts from the Forok race and Sun Gold demon race roared in rage as they swooped down, wanting to launch an attack. However, at this moment, within the Evergreen Kingdom, an army of immortal emperors soared up into the air, exuding a fearsome aura, causing the experts from the two supreme demon races to halt their movements. They circled in the air while howling in rage. What are you waiting for? The experts from the two races stared at the experts from the other demonic races. However, other than some demonic races that had enmity with Qin Wentian, many other demonic races decided to watch from the sidelines and didn't have any intentions to act. There was also intense competition between the demonic races. The Forok race and the Sun Gold demon race were both peak-level demonic races. They were usually incomparably arrogant and tyrannical. It would naturally be good if they could weaken their strength. In addition, now that so many experts from the immortal realms were gathered here, it wasn't only the demons here. If they rushed out to fight against Qin Wenin, wouldn't that be giving those characters from the immortal realms, Wu Xiu, an advantage? These greater demons who had cultivated to the peak of their cultivation wouldn't easily start a fight. The two demon kings of the Forok race and Sun Gold demon race were actually skinned alive by Qin Wentian right in front of the experts of the immortal realms. Such a scene was simply too horrifying. Countless gazes turned to that white-robed figure. How domineering was his return today? Most probably, he even dared to cause the sun and moon to change. He was the Lord of the Heavens. Screams of misery rang out. The two demon kings were brutally killed. This caused all the experts who came here to feel an indescribable sense of trepidation in their hearts. Today, they definitely couldn't act rashly. The power structure of the immortal realms was about to change. Most probably, Rivers of blood would flow in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Start a fire. The two demon kings would surely be extremely nourishing. Qin Wentian spoke. Experts proficient in fire started to roast the meat. The flames were extremely terrifying. These were the flames of peak-stage immortal emperors. It wasn't a problem for them to roast two peak-stage greater demons. Upon seeing this scene, the Forok race and Sun Gold demon race almost went berserk, disregarding everything and rushing down to fight. However, they were stopped by the two supreme greater demons. These two supreme greater demons were the new demon kings. They knew that they had to remain calm at this moment. Most probably, many people were waiting for them to probe the strength of Qin Wentian and the Evergreen Kingdom. If they fought now, they would only be cannon fodder. Qin Wentian killed his way into their nest alone. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying his strength was. Roar! An expert from the White Tiger people roared as his eyes spewed fire. Back then in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, many of the greater demons of the White Tiger people also encountered such a situation. They were all roasted on the fire before being eaten by Qin Wentian and the Namhuang clan. Such humiliation, they would never forget it. Right now, Qin Wentian was roasting the demon kings of the Forok race and Sun Gold demon race. The fragrance of meat permeated the air, refreshing the hearts of everyone. It was simply too wondrous. Qin Wentian gave the order to start eating. The immortal emperors naturally wouldn't be polite. These were peak-stage greater demons, the demon kings of the two races. Their meat was countless times more valuable compared to miraculous pills and medicines. How could they be polite? At this moment, another group of figures descended. This group of people was extremely terrifying. There was an army of immortal emperors with shocking strength. The people standing at the front were all peak-stage immortal emperors and exuded a fearsome might. Qin Wentian glanced over there. After that, his gaze landed on one of them. It was none other than the Emperor of Qianbian. This group of experts was none other than the immortal Qianbian Gate. The Emperor of Qianbian naturally also saw Qin Wentian. He sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian actually didn't die. He had watched Qin Wentian grow up, but now, Qin Wentian seemed to be walking on the opposite side of the immortal Qianbian Gate. This was something he didn't want to see. However, what could he do? Wentian. The Emperor of Qianbian called out. Emperor Lord, who is the one in charge of the immortal Qianbian Gate now? Qin Wentian asked. The Emperor of Qianbian felt bitterness in his heart. He glanced at the people before him and Qin Wentian instantly understood. Although the Emperor of Qianbian was still in the immortal Qianbian Gate, the current immortal Qianbian Gate was no longer the immortal Qianbian Gate of the past. It was completely controlled by the heavenly talisman realm. Qin Wentian, why are you not returning to your sect yet? A person at the front of the immortal Qianbian Gate spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He naturally understood what the other party meant. Over 100 years ago, Qin Wentian has already died once. Everything in the past has long been severed. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. The things the heavenly talisman realm did made him choose to sever all ties with them. However, he also didn't wish to form a grudge with them. After all, he was once a disciple of the heavenly talisman realm and had received much help from them. Unless there was no other choice, he didn't want to start a war with them. Ridiculous. How can the sect be a place you can enter and leave whenever you want? Don't forget the rules of the sect. The other party coldly laughed. Bring the traitors here. As the sound of his voice faded, someone took out a treasure. It was actually a spatial-type treasure that transformed into a prison. Terrifying chains could be seen within, locking 3 silhouettes within. Upon seeing the 3 silhouettes, Qin Wentian's countenance instantly turned incredibly unsightly to behold. A terrifying coldness radiated from him, gradually transforming into killing intent. Senior brother. A voice called out. Qin Wentian stared at the person who spoke. His long hair was in a mess, his robes were tattered and there were traces of blood on him. It was almost impossible to recognize that this person was none other than the young genius Jun Mengchen. The monarch descent immortal emperor. Someone exclaimed in shock. The monarch descent immortal emperor betrayed the immortal Qinbian Gate and was actually captured. This immortal Qinbian Gate was simply too terrifying. Mengchen. Qin Wendian turned his gaze over. He stepped out as his killing intent soared up into the sky. Over there, not only was Jun Mengchen there, he was acquainted with the other two as well. One of them was the white-robed immortal king Bai Wuya who once accepted him into the sect. Right now, he was in a sorry state. As for the last person, Qin Wendian had met him before. That old man with an extraordinary demeanor was none other than the senior brother who accepted Jun Mengchen. Wendian, don't act recklessly. When Qin Wendian stepped out, he heard Bai Wuya's voice transmission. Only to see Bai Wuya inclined his head, his eyes were no longer as radiant as before. He transmitted his voice back. An immortal emperor character from the heavenly talisman realm descended here. It is precisely because of this that Jun Mengchen was captured. Qin Wendian's steps faltered, the coldness radiating from him didn't vanish at all. In fact, it was even colder than before. As expected, the heavenly talisman realm from the upper world interfered in the matters of the lower world. This was also within his expectations. The great changes in the immortal realms, they initially wanted to make use of the heavenly talisman realm from the lower world to unify Azure Mystic. However, the heavenly talisman realm clearly didn't expect that the seal on Azure Mystic would slacken, affecting their plans. But since they had been preparing for so many years, they naturally wouldn't give up on the idea of unifying Azure Mystic. Mengchen, senior brother Bai, I've caused you two to suffer. Qin Wendian felt some guilt in his heart. Jun Mengchen betrayed the heavenly talisman realm because of him. Most probably, Bai Wuya also fell to such a state because of him. If not, even if Bai Wuya was unhappy with the actions of the heavenly talisman realm, he would have chosen to keep a low profile and wouldn't have ended up as a prisoner. In the camp of the immortal Qinbian Gate, there were some people who had interacted with Qin Wendian before. Back then, they had participated in the battle between the immortal Qinbian Gate and the Dongshengshan Gate. An example was Tuoba Saint Sky. When they saw the current situation, they could only sigh in their hearts. However, they had no other choice. They could only follow the orders of their sect and unify the world. Senior brother. Jun Mengchen clenched his fists tightly as his eyes turned bloodshot. His senior brother Qin actually didn't die. He should be happy, but today, his senior brother was most probably going to face another calamity. He also knew that a character above the immortal emperor realm had appeared in the heavenly talisman realm. After that, the immortal Qinbian Gate instantly became even more domineering, capturing him. After that, they also captured his senior brother, Bai Wuya. In the past, he was only placed under house arrest, but now he was directly imprisoned. Among the many disciples, there was also an old friend of Qin Wendian, Zi Qingxian. Her beautiful eyes flashed with sadness as she clenched her fists tightly. Back then, she fought side by side with Qin Wendian and Jun Mengchen, and the three of them had an extremely good relationship. But today, Jun Mengchen became a prisoner and the sect also wanted to deal with Qin Wendian. She was powerless to change everything. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Qin Wendian smiled at Jun Mengchen. After that, his eyes turned cold as he stared at the experts of the immortal Qinbian Gate. Qin Wendian, if you are willing to kneel down and apologize and choose to submit to our sect, swearing that you will never betray us again, our sect can forgive all your mistakes. That expert from the heavenly talisman realm stared at Qin Wendian as he spoke. However, Qin Wendian merely laughed coldly as he stared at him. His gaze was like he was looking at a dead man. He returned to the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom, no longer glancing at Jun Mengchen and the others. His eyes swept over to the experts of the immortal realms as he spoke. Is everyone here? Chapter 1691. As the sound of Qin Wendian's voice faded, the immortal emperors behind him all had solemn expressions on their faces. The experts of the immortal realms were all gathered in the Evergreen Kingdom Palace. When has there ever been such a grand occasion in the immortal realms? At the very least, the people who came here today have never seen it before. Countless gazes and immortal senses were gathered here. What qualifications does Qin Wenyin have to contend against the entire immortal realms? Qin Wenyin, you didn't die in the battle back then. But today I will definitely destroy your soul. A cold voice rang out. The tone of the Sunluo immortal emperor was extremely cold, his killing intent surging. Qin Wenyin didn't even glance at him. He calmly spoke. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms are undergoing a huge change. Right now, there are many experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms coming to Azure Mystic. I'm sure there are people from Azure Mystic among all of you. Today, I've gathered everyone here because my purpose is to elect a new ruler of the Immortal Realms. Since ancient times, there were ancient emperors who wanted to unify the Immortal Realms. Today, the time is ripe. Qin Wentian's voice rumbled out in all directions, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. Today, would the glory of the ancient emperor era return to the Immortal Realms? Haha, Qin Wenyin, you actually want to unify the Immortal Realms? Just based on the strength of you and these people behind you? Pei Qing laughed uproariously. He stared at Qin Wenyin with coldness in his eyes. He felt some jealousy towards Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin was just a junior back then, but now, Qin Wenyin had already surpassed him, standing above him. Your words are exactly what I wanted. As expected of a disciple of my sect, Azure Mystic does indeed need to be unified. In the direction of the immortal Qianbian Gate, several people in the lead coldly spoke. Clearly, they also wanted to use this opportunity to unify the immortal realms and become the new ruler of Azure Mystic. I agree. Azure Mystic is too chaotic. It's about time for it to be unified. At this moment, a calm voice rang out from the true dragon of the Sunluo Immortal Empire, agreeing with Qin Wentian's words. Clearly, he had the same ambition. We'll talk about the unification of Qin Xian later. Let's kill Qin Wenyin first, then we'll discuss this matter. Someone coldly spoke. This person was none other than the sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect. He anxiously wanted Qin Wentian's life. This young man mustn't be left alive. He had to kill him. If not, their Sacred Sun sect would be in danger. The Ying clan and the 9 Emperors' immortal state were a good example. Kill Qin Wenyin first. The experts from the White Tiger people also spoke. They all wanted Qin Wenyin to die. As for the unification of Azure Mystic, they could already sense the abnormality of the current immortal realms. Most probably, there would be characters above the immortal Emperor realm appearing, and there would definitely be more than one of them. If there were truly supreme characters descending to Azure Mystic, wanting to unify the immortal realms, they wouldn't stubbornly resist. Anyone who stood in their way would die. But it couldn't be, because if Qin Wenyin became king, all his enemies would die. Since this is the case, it's indeed time to settle the debts of the past. Qin Wenyin spoke. He turned his gaze to the experts in the air as he coldly spoke. Back then, the Sunluo Immortal Empire, Sacred Sun sect, Forok race, Heavenhold race, Void Beast race, and the White Tiger people also participated in the siege against the Evergreen Kingdom. Today, I'm going to settle the score with them. The other powers have nothing to do with me. Naturally, if there's anyone who wants to interfere and become my enemy, I'm more than happy to oblige. Qin Wenyin, your actions are unbridled and have already violated the taboos of the demon race. All the demons of the desolate mountains will kill you. The new leader of the Forok race coldly spoke. You gathered the people of the immortal realms and formed an alliance with many powers. There's the Evergreen Kingdom, Namhuang clan, GD, Emperor Yu, and many of your subordinates. Right now, you want to eliminate a group of enemies first before dealing with the others in the immortal realms? Pei Qing coldly laughed. Right now, Qin Wentian's forces were already extremely terrifying. He mustn't allow them to be defeated one by one. Pei Qing, I haven't mentioned you yet. Are you in such a hurry to die? Qin Wenyin stared at Pei Qing. With a single glance, Pei Qing only felt as though he had fallen into a true illusionary space. There was no one in the surroundings, only he stood there alone as Qin Wentian's silhouette appeared before him. Illusion domain, you dare to act against me? Pei Qing's expression changed as he called out, wanting to beg for help. Right now, he truly didn't have any confidence in front of Qin Wenyin. Back then in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, weren't you very arrogant in front of me? Since you want to die so badly today, I'll grant you your wish. Qin Wenyin coldly spoke. At this moment, Pei Qing only felt his entire body turning cold. His aura erupted forth, but a formless pressure bore down on him. A terrifying palm imprint directly descended from the sky. He had no way to block it at all. Impudent! Pei Qing's master stepped out, exuding a terrifying aura. The experts from the Chaotic Sky sect all radiated coldness as they spoke. Qin Wenyin, don't be impudent. Qin Wenyin, my Chaotic Sky sect is now one of the strongest powers in the immortal realms. I truly want to see how strong your alliance is. Do you really want to stand against so many peak powers in the immortal realms? Pei Qing coldly stared at Qin Wenyin as he spoke. Chaotic Sky Sect? A look of disdain appeared on Qin Wentian's face. If you want to take revenge for you, feel free to do so. As the sound of his voice faded, his palm trembled. Pei Qing only felt a sense of suffocation. His entire body was about to be crushed. He screamed in agony as he roared, "You dare!" Boom. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian's body directly disintegrated, turning into dust that dissipated into the air. The experts from the Chaotic Sky sect all stared at Qin Wenyin. Pei Qing's master's eyes flashed with an intense killing intent. Naturally, there was also trepidation in his eyes. How powerful was Pei Qing now? Yet in front of Qin Wenyin he couldn't even withstand a single strike and was directly killed by Qin Wenyin. When they thought of Qin Wentian's illustrious battle achievements in the immortal realms, they all felt a chill in their hearts. They didn't dare to act recklessly. Since all of you want to die so badly, I'll grant you your wish. Qin Wentian spoke. Destroy the Sacred Sun sect first. Yes, Palace Lord. A group of experts soared into the air. An army of immortal emperors? How terrifying was that? The people from the Sacred Sun sect roared in rage. Why are you guys not acting yet? Earlier, the major powers named by Qin Wenyin, the White Tiger people, Forok race, Heavenhold race, Void Beast race all unleashed their auras. Even the Sun Gold Demon race was prepared to act. He stared at the greater demons and spoke, Qin Wentian's humiliation of my tribe's king is a lesson to be learned from. Don't you all want to kill him? Many demons fell silent. Qin Wenyin was too domineering. Although they couldn't bear to see how Qin Wenyin humiliated the king of the Forok race and Sun Gold Demon race, they still had trepidation in their hearts. If Qin Wenyin was weak, they wouldn't hesitate to kill him. But since Qin Wenyin was strong, they had no choice but to be cautious. In the direction of the Sacred Sun sect, the experts from the Sacred Sun sect all radiated terrifying sunfire with the sect leader at the center. It was like they were in a formation as a terrifying sun manifested, shooting out beams of sunlight that shot towards the immortal emperors below. Each beam of sunlight contained immense power. There was a crown on the head of the Sacred Sun sect's sect leader. This was a supremely powerful emperor-ranked weapon. The sun was formed precisely from the crown. However, Qin Wentian's subordinates were all monarch-level governors. How could they not have emperor-ranked weapons in their hands? Resplendent light flashed as a terrifying coldness corroded the sunlight. A fog appeared in the air as a group of immortal emperors killed their way towards the Sacred Sun sect. At the same time, there were also experts from the Forok race, Sun Gold Demon race, Void Beast race, and the White Tiger people. The battle instantly erupted, causing the sky to change color as the tremors shook unceasingly. The other major powers all watched from the sidelines, not interfering in this battle. Only now did countless people realize that the situation today wouldn't repeat itself. Qin Wenyin gathered all the peak powers of the immortal realms, but these peak powers wouldn't really join forces to kill Qin Wenyin, because things were no longer the same as before. The encirclement back then was because the various peak powers had the absolute advantage. But today, the Ying clan, the 9 emperors' immortal state, Old Devil Duo Tian, and the others have already been annihilated. Who would dare to interfere now? Could it be because Qin Wenyin had the strength to threaten the entire Azure Mystic Immortal realms? Didn't the immortal Qinbian Gate have the strength to do so? Even if they could kill Qin Wenyin, wouldn't they be helping the immortal Qinbian Gate instead? Right now, many people were waiting. They knew that the true battle has yet to begin and most probably, only a minority of people would be able to participate in it. Qin Wenyin didn't participate in the battle. The immortal emperor army of the Lifefire Palace, the Namhuang clan, the Evergreen Kingdom, GD, Emperor Yu and the immortal emperors of the Battle Saint tribe were all extremely powerful. They were more than enough to deal with several peak powers at the same time. His gaze landed on the dragon carriage of the Sunluo Immortal Empire. With a swishing sound, the dragon carriage was torn apart as an incomparably tyrannical figure appeared. His eyes opened as a resplendent light shot out, radiating a boundless might that enveloped this entire space. The sky changed color as a hellish dimension appeared in the air. The terrifying might radiating from it caused even immortal emperors to tremble. Countless people turned their gazes in the direction of the Sunluo Immortal Empire, staring at the expert who appeared as waves of shock rose in their hearts. Although they had already guessed it, when they truly saw such a character appearing, they still felt their hearts trembling. At this moment, many experts from the Sunluo Immortal Empire knelt on one knee, incomparably respectful. Even immortal emperors were kneeling in submission. This scene was simply too shocking. The Sunluo Immortal Emperor stared at Qin Wenyin as he coldly spoke. Envoys from the upper world of my Sunluo Immortal Palace have arrived. You actually dare to dream of destroying my Sunluo Immortal Empire? I've said it before, today shall be the day of your death. Envoys from the upper world. Everyone sighed. Things were really like what Qin Wenyin said. Now that there was an envoys from the upper world descending from the Azure Mystic Immortal realms, this person should have already surpassed the Immortal Emperor realm. Qin Wenyin, what a pity. Would he still not be able to escape death today? I've given you a chance to submit to me. Since you want to die, this seat shall grant you your wish. That Empyrean from the Sunluo Immortal Empire spoke. The light from hell bore down on Qin Wenyin, like the might of the apocalypse. Countless gazes turned to Qin Wenyin as their expressions all changed. This was especially so for Qin Wenyan's friends and family. Their countenances turned even paler. That supreme character still wouldn't be able to escape death today? Chongqing the Great, GD and the others all stared over nervously, terror could be seen in their eyes. This scene was too terrifying. The light from the true apocalypse of hell descended upon Qin Wenyin, wanting to engulf him. Chapter 1692. At the Ancient Emperor Realm. The hearts of countless people trembled as they stared at the apocalyptic scene of destruction. The emperors from the Forok race, Sun Gold Demon race, and Sacred Sun sect all had malevolent smiles on their faces. So what if Qin Wenyin has returned? In the end, he would still die. After his death, everyone in the Evergreen Kingdom would definitely regret living in this world. Many experts from the Sunluo Immortal Empire knelt on the ground, their eyes filled with reverence. As expected of an envoy from the upper world. How could Qin Wenyin survive? At this moment, the gazes of countless people were all focused on the location where Qin Wenyin was at. They only saw that Qin Wenyan's body suddenly glowed with an incomparably resplendent light. He was like a divinity, and when that hell descended, the light pierced into it, devouring the energy of the hell bit by bit, causing it to dissipate unceasingly. The light grew stronger and stronger, so blinding that people couldn't open their eyes. They didn't dare to look directly at it. Countless people stretched out their hands to cover their eyes. Between heaven and earth, the power of the great light seemed to illuminate the world. Finally, that hell disappeared, dissipating under the light, turning into dust. Qin Wenyin still stood there. He was clad in white, exuding magnificence through the generations. His black hair fluttered in the wind, but from the start until now, he didn't move at all. At this moment, the faces of many turned ashen. They finally realized something. The void was silent. In this vast and boundless space, countless powerful beings seemed to have come to a realization at this moment. This was an extremely shocking truth. The Qin Wenyin who returned this time wasn't at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm. His cultivation base was above the immortal emperor realm. What did it mean to be above the immortal emperor realm? The ancient emperor realm. He wasn't someone from the upper world. He was an ancient emperor that appeared in Azure Mystic. From a junior, he surpassed countless heaven-chosen and experts of the older generations, stepping into that unknown realm and returning. As to why many people didn't dare to think in this direction, it was because the time was too short. It hasn't even been 200 years since the time Qin Wendian was killed. 200 years. Who would dare to believe that someone above the immortal emperor realm? It was like a dream, completely unreal. But the truth was right before their eyes. The ancient emperor of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms was born, Qin Wenyin. The evergreen immortal emperor, Matriarch Ji and the others all laughed. The tension in their hearts dissipated. There was only shock in their hearts. So this was the case. Qin Wenyin was much stronger than what they had imagined. He had walked even further than they had imagined. The eyes of the experts from the heavenly talisman realm narrowed as they stared at Qin Wenyin. They didn't expect that Qin Wenyin had actually stepped into that realm. He had truly concealed himself well. Jun Mingchen, Bai Wuya, and the others' gloomy eyes lit up. To Jun Mingchen, his senior brother, who had created miracles, had returned. He himself was a legend. To Bai Wuya, he was very proud of Qin Wenyin. This was a talent he discovered, and right now, Qin Wenyin was already incomparably dazzling, walking at the forefront of his generation. The 1,000 Transformations Emperor Lord also sighed with emotions in his heart. What did it mean to be peerless? Qin Wenyin was able to vividly explain the meaning of this word. He suppressed an entire era. No one could be mentioned in the same breath as him. The expression of that envoy from the Sanluo Immortal Empire froze. He stared at Qin Wenyin and spoke, "No wonder you dare to be so impudent. So it turns out that you have also stepped into the Empyrean realm. The matters of Azure Mystic will naturally be resolved by my Azure Mystic. I don't care who you are. If you scram now, I can let bygones be bygones. You can do whatever you want to do, but don't interfere in the matters of my Azure Mystic Immortal Realms." Qin Wenyin stared at the envoy as he spoke tyrannically. Ha! That envoy laughed uproariously. What arrogant words! Could it be that you want to represent Azure Mystic? Now that the ban has been relaxed, countless experts will enter Azure Mystic. Do you want to represent the entire Azure Mystic? In addition, I heard that you died once over 100 years ago. Seems like you had some good fortune and profited from a disaster, achieving your current accomplishments. But most probably, it hasn't been too long since you stepped into this realm. As for me, I've already stepped into the Empyrean realm a few thousand years ago. You want me to scram? Are you even qualified to do so? That envoy laughed maniacally. Purgatory once again appeared in the sky. Upon hearing his words, the eyes of many flashed. The words of this envoy were logical. After all, he was someone from the upper world and was definitely an extremely powerful character. No matter how fast Qin Wentian's cultivation speed was, he shouldn't have stepped into the Empyrean realm for too long. How could Qin Wendian fight against him? Right now, the situation was still very uncertain. Using time to judge strength before me? How ridiculous! I'll only ask you one last time. Are you going to scram or not? Just when everyone was guessing the difference in strength between the two of them, Qin Wendian spoke again. How tyrannical was this? However, no one could refute him. Indeed, in front of Qin Wendian, who would use time to compare strength. How many years has he cultivated for? How many years has it been since he was at the Immortal King realm? What a madman, not knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth. The eyes of the envoy flashed with rage. He stared at Qin Wenyin and in an instant, purgatory manifested around Qin Wenyin, enveloping him within. Boundless lava and fire appeared, gushing towards Qin Wenyin. For Empyreans, their law intents were like heavenly might, able to form laws with a single thought. How powerful were they? In the air, boundless energy from purgatory bore down, wanting to bury Qin Wenyin within. However, a terrifying spatial energy manifested around Qin Wenyin. Spatial blades slashed out, directly cleaving apart the void. Qin Wenyin stepped out, directly exiting the purgatory, exuding an incomparable carefreeness. I don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth? Qin Wenyin laughed in disdain. Boundless spatial light appeared in the sky, lacerating the void and instantly enveloping the envoy from the Sanluo immortal empire. Slash. With an intention of his will, Qin Wentian's spatial energy transformed into terrifying spatial blades that slashed towards the envoy. The expression of the envoy froze. A fearsome layer of stone armor appeared around him, impenetrable. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly, the stone armor turned crimson red. Ear-piercing sounds rang out unceasingly as the stone armor crumbled apart unceasingly. He stretched out both his hands and in an instant, the laws of heaven and earth went berserk. Numerous blazing diamond-like stones appeared, floating in the air, resembling a myriad of floating islands. Kill! With a clench of his hand, the floating islands shot towards Qin Wenyin like shooting stars, wanting to bury Qin Wenyin. Qin Wentian's body transformed into a beam of light as he vanished. With a thunderous boom, the blazing stones collided with each other. Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished completely, directly appearing before the envoy from the Sanluo immortal empire. Resplendent beams of light and sharp swords shot out, resembling a torrential river that flowed unceasingly. The emperors from the Sanluo immortal empire all retreated madly. The space where the two of them fought transformed into a vacuum zone. Nobody dared to get close. The demonic dragons pulling the carriage were directly torn apart by the shockwaves, transforming into a rain of blood. Courting death. The envoy from the Sanluo immortal empire roared. The surrounding space trembled violently as though it was about to shatter. His fist shone with an incomparably terrifying light as rumbling sounds rang out unceasingly. When he saw Qin Wenyan appearing, he directly punched out. A terrifying innate technique erupted forth, creating a blood-colored space akin to hell. Boundless meteors shot out, penetrating through everything. At such a close distance, there was basically no way for Qin Wenyan to dodge. The innate techniques of Empyreans were infused with the power of their law wills. How terrifying would that be? Naturally, Qin Wenyan didn't even think of dodging. An ancient Buddha law body appeared around Qin Wenyan as countless arms manifested. Punching out with a radiant divine fist, the entire space was covered in light. Everywhere he passed by, everything was reduced to ashes. The expression of the envoy from the Sanluo immortal empire drastically changed. How could this young man have comprehended multiple source origins? Not only that, he even had a supreme innate technique. Qin Wenyan roared, unleashing his full strength as he frenziedly attacked. Rocks and stones shot through the air, but the countless arms seemed to be able to bury the heavens and earth, sealing this space. After that, they grabbed towards his body. The Buddhist arms were like vines, wrapping around his body, forcibly capturing him and binding him in the air. Qin Wenyan walked over step by step, radiating resplendent Buddhic light, incomparably holy. You only have this little bit of strength and you want me to kneel and submit? Qin Wenyan stared at the envoy from the Sanluo immortal empire. That envoy's expression changed as he spoke. I'm someone from the supreme ancient immortal realms. I won't interfere in this matter anymore. Release me. The people from the Sanluo immortal empire were all dumbfounded. After that, their earlier fervor transformed into deep fear. Even the Sanluo immortal emperor started to panic. The envoy they worshipped like a god was actually defeated. What did this mean? This meant that their Sanluo immortal empire would soon be annihilated. I told you to scram, but you mocked me for not knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth. What about now? Qin Wenyan stared at the envoy from the Sanluo immortal empire. Beams of light and sharp swords shot out frenziedly. That envoy screamed in misery as his body was destroyed bit by bit. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, his body finally dissipated, turning into dust. Silence filled the air, the hearts of countless people pounded. An ancient emperor-level character just died. This They only felt their minds turning numb. After Qin Wenyan returned, did the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms become so crazy? That was an ancient emperor that only appeared once every countless years in the Immortal Realms. Yet, he was killed just like that, in the hands of a supreme genius like Qin Wenyan. How terrifying was Qin Wenyan? No one dared to believe that Qin Wenyan was still an immortal king 100 years ago. This was simply unimaginable. Was Qin Wenyan strong? Of course he was. His astral souls made it so that he would have an absolute advantage when fighting against opponents at the same cultivation level. Although the time he spent at the Empyrean realm was short, he had comprehended the source origins of all his law attributes. Some people might not be able to do so even if they cultivated for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Back then, when he just broke through to the Empyrean realm, the Life-Fire Empyrean could only fight against him with the help of the Life-Fire Grand Formation. In fact, the Life-Fire Empyrean didn't even have the advantage. The people from the Sunluo Immortal Empire, the Sacred Sun Sect, and many of their enemies from the demon race all felt fear in their hearts. Qin Wenyan was so powerful. What would their fates be? Chongqing the Great, GD, and the others all sighed in their hearts. How could they have imagined that Qin Wenyan had already reached a level that they couldn't even look up to? From today onwards, who in the world wouldn't know of you? The Southern Phoenix matriarch Nanfeng Yaoyue stared at the white-robed figure as she sighed. Back then, Qin Wenyan was merely an outstanding junior. How would she dare to imagine that Qin Wenyan would have such accomplishments today? Chapter 1693. 200 years ago, the immortal realms experienced a transformation. The Tao elements appeared in the city of ancient emperors, and geniuses contended against each other. But in the history of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, there were many existences who managed to step into that realm. In the vast immortal realms, no one dared to disobey them. Although there were only a few records of them in the ancient records, no one dared to deny their unparalleled achievements. In the vast immortal realms, they reigned supreme. From this, one could very well imagine what sort of existences ancient emperors were. They were paragons of the immortal realms, able to become the rulers of the world. But today, an ancient emperor was killed by Qin Wenyan in the royal palace of the Evergreen Kingdom. How could Nanfeng Yaoyue not understand what this signified? From today onwards, Qin Wenyan's name would truly circulate through the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. There was no one in the world who didn't know of Qin Wenyan. Many people in the Namhuang clan felt indescribably shocked. Namhuang Yunxi and Nanfeng Shunga suddenly felt that Qin Wenyan was so close to them, yet so far away at the same time. If it wasn't for the fact that they were friends, they most probably wouldn't even have the qualifications to stand together with Qin Wenyan. This was an existence that could kill ancient emperors. Even immortal emperors would have to kneel before them. In the vast crowd, Qin Wenyan had many acquaintances. Li Yufeng, Nanfeng Nongyue, the Dark North Immortal Emperor, and the others all felt shock in their hearts. Although Su Qinyao had only interacted with Qin Wenyan in the city of ancient emperors, Qin Wenyan had given her an extremely deep impression. After this battle, she would never be able to forget his magnificence throughout the generations. Chu Qingyi's eyes turned red, feeling incomparably complicated in her heart. Has he already reached this step? In that case, she could only give him her blessings. Her beautiful eyes flickered with tears. The man she secretly loved in her heart, his name would shake the entire world. Senior brother Qin. Jun Mingchen clenched his fists tightly. In the immortal Qianbian Gate, those who knew Qin Wenyan all sighed in their hearts. Even an ancient emperor had died in his hands. Sunluo Emperor, is today the day of my death? Qin Wenyan turned his gaze to the Sunluo Immortal Emperor. At this instant, the Sunluo Immortal Emperor's countenance turned ashen. The experts from the Sunluo Immortal Empire all had looks of terror on their faces. Even the envoy from the upper world had died in Qin Wenyan's hands. How could they be a match for Qin Wenyan? Given Qin Wenyan's current cultivation base, it would only take a single thought for him to kill them. Qin Wenyan, you killed someone from the upper world of my Sunluo Immortal Empire. In the future, you won't be able to escape death as well. The Sunluo Immortal Emperor had a malevolent expression on his face as he threatened. He knew that right now he would die for sure. You won't be able to see it. Qin Wendian calmly spoke. I'm willing to lead the Sunluo Immortal Empire to submit to the immortal Qianbian Gate. At this moment, the Sunluo Immortal Emperor had already secretly transmitted his voice to the experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate. Right now, only this force could allow him to live. Naturally, on the surface, he still spoke. Qin Wendian, how did you do it exactly? How can you reach your current cultivation base in such a short period of time? Qin Wendian's eyes flashed. The Sunluo Immortal Emperor was actually concerned about this before his death? Upon seeing the flickering in his eyes, Qin Wendian seemed to have understood. A resplendent light cascaded down on the Sunluo Immortal Emperor. This was the power of light. Stay your hand. At this moment, the leader of the immortal Qianbian Gate berated. Qin Wendian ignored him. When he heard that voice, he understood that the Sunluo Immortal Emperor had sought help from the heavenly talisman realm. The light flashed as the Sunluo Immortal Emperor screamed in agony. After that, he dissipated into nothingness. Not only for the Sunluo Immortal Emperor, the light radiating from Qin Wendian also enveloped all the experts of the Sunluo Immortal Empire. He spoke. Back then, the Sunluo Immortal Emperor led the Sunluo Immortal Empire to hunt me down. Today, I've returned. The Sunluo Immortal Empire shall be erased from the immortal realms. As the sound of his voice faded, the experts of the Sunluo Immortal Empire all screamed in agony as they died one after another, vanishing from the light. Although he has already reached another level, what he wanted was revenge. Who could say anything? Back then, the peak powers of the immortal realms joined forces to hunt him down. At that time, he, Qin Wendian, was only at the immortal king realm. All the immortal emperors participated in the hunt, and now that he has returned, even if he killed all his enemies, no one could say that he didn't abide by the rules. This was what the many peak powers of the immortal realms did to him back then. Now, he wanted to get revenge. Another peak power of the immortal realms has been destroyed. Many people sighed with emotion. The Sunluo Immortal Empire was one of the 3 strongest immortal empires in the central regions. But now, 2 out of 3 were destroyed. The Sunluo Immortal Empire and the 9 Emperors' immortal state were both destroyed. From now on, their names were erased from the immortal realms. If it was in the past, the experts of the Shooting Sun Empire would surely be very happy. But now, the experts of the Shooting Sun Empire didn't feel as excited as they imagined. Because they understood that even if the 9 Emperors' immortal state and the Sunluo Immortal Empire were destroyed, their Shooting Sun Empire wouldn't be able to accomplish much. Qin Wendian was still there, he could even kill ancient emperors. This was equivalent to crushing the hopes of all the peak powers. Even if they stepped into that legendary realm, it was useless. They wouldn't be able to defeat Qin Wendian. This immortal realms would only belong to Qin Wendian or those who could defeat Qin Wendian. The experts of the Shooting Sun Empire could only watch from the sidelines. There was a beautiful princess in the Shooting Sun Empire who was now an immortal emperor. She was transcendent. Back then when she was in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, she was teased by monk Bujia. When she was hunting Bujia, she met Qin Wendian and a story happened between them. Now that she saw Qin Wendian, she felt as though she was in a dream. Everything felt so surreal. The scenes in the Tiandao Sacred Academy flashed through her mind. At that time, who would have thought that the handsome young man in front of her would have such accomplishments today? The experts of the immortal Qianbian Gate all had unsightly expressions on their faces. Qin Wendian clearly ignored them. Qin Wendian naturally had to ignore them. When they spoke, Qin Wendian already knew that the Sunluo Immortal Emperor had sought help from the immortal Qianbian Gate. How could he not kill them? Those who participated in the encirclement of the Sunluo Immortal Emperor back then would all be annihilated. No one would be able to interfere. As expected of a disciple of your sect. Now that your wings have hardened and you have already stepped into the Empyrean realm, you no longer have your sect in your eyes. An expert from the heavenly talisman realm coldly spoke. Back then when I was still in my sect, where was the sect when I was surrounded by so many peak powers? Now I have to rely on myself to take revenge. Could it be that you all still want to obstruct me? Qin Wentian mocked. The experts from the heavenly talisman realm coldly snorted. They had no way to refute Qin Wentian's words. There was truly no logic to it. Kill them all. Qin Wenin inclined his head and stared at the battle in the air that had stopped. He coldly spoke. The Forok race, Void Beast race, White Tiger people and the other greater demons all had looks of terror on their faces. They actually sped away, preparing to flee. When they saw that Qin Wentian has already stepped into the Empyrean realm, they knew that it was impossible for them to win against Qin Wentian. Now they could only flee for their lives. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. Astral light enveloped him as an incomparably gigantic ancient tree appeared in the air. Countless vines shot out in all directions with lightning speed, causing rustling sounds to ring out unceasingly. The experts from the Heavenhold race were all bound by the ancient tree as they howled in rage. The greater demons from the Heavenhold race had boundless strength, but the vines grew larger and larger, locking onto them tightly. The experts from the Forok race were incomparably tyrannical. The greater demons from the Sun Gold demon race blazed with sunfire, but the vines were indestructible. They grew thicker and thicker, binding the greater demons tightly. Flee? For immortal emperors, how would they have a chance to flee when facing an ancient emperor? The roars of rage shook the heavens and earth. The other greater demons stared in shock. None of them dared to interfere. Although they hated Qin Wentian's methods very much, who would dare to interfere when facing the rage of an ancient emperor? They couldn't help but to rejoice that they didn't participate in the war against the Evergreen Kingdom back then. If not, they wouldn't have been able to escape today. Yeah. At this moment, a raging wind gusted by as a golden-colored greater demon flew over with a speed as fast as lightning. His entire body was cast from gold and resembled a great rock. He swooped down, aiming for Qin Wentian. "Little rascal!" Purgatory, who was below, exclaimed in shock. After that, the golden-winged great rock transformed into a snow-white little demon and rushed into Qin Wentian's embrace. "Boho, you are finally back." Little rascal whimpered. He initially thought that Qin Wentian had died. It was only until he heard the news of Qin Wentian slaughtering his way into the Forok race and Sun Gold demon race did he know that Qin Wentian was still alive. He and Qin Wentian could sense each other, but after that battle, the connection between them vanished. He basically didn't expect that Qin Wentian was still alive. "Little rascal, I'm back." Qin Wentian rubbed Little Rascal's head as he spoke in a gentle voice. "That old demon is dead." Little Rascal's voice was low as he spoke with sorrow. "I know. I've already killed those 2 vile beasts and roasted them. You came back at the right time. Right now, there are many greater demons here. You can handle them." Qin Wentian spoke. Little Rascal inclined his head and stared at those bound greater demons. His body directly soared up into the air, transforming into a golden heaven-devouring beast that exuded an incomparably imposing might. That golden head of his exuded a terrifying baleful aura. With a flash of his silhouette, he directly appeared before a greater demon from the Sun Gold demon race. His golden claws slammed into the head of the greater demon as terrifying golden runic light flashed. The greater demon screamed in agony as his body was devoured bit by bit. Heaven-devouring beasts could even devour the sun, moon, and constellations. There was nothing they couldn't devour. Very swiftly, this greater demon from the Sun Gold demon race was devoured. Little Rascal's silhouette flashed unceasingly, devouring the captured greater demons one by one, turning them into nutrients for him. How brutal! The expressions of many greater demons changed. The hearts of the humans in this vast space trembled violently. Qin Wentian had no expression on his face as he stared at Little Rascal, venting his anger. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. If it wasn't Little Rascal devouring them, it was them devouring Little Rascal. Staring at the heaven-devouring beast frenziedly, as well as the white-robed figure standing with his hands clasped behind his back, Everyone sighed in their hearts. In the future, they better not antagonize this baleful god, Qin Wenin. Chapter 1694. In the vast space, so many demon emperors were actually transformed into nutrients for the heaven-devouring beast. This was simply a shocking sight. The hearts of many demons trembled. The heaven-devouring beast was as expected of a demonic beast. It was actually able to contain so many greater demons. Also, there didn't seem to be any changes to its body. Finally, the heaven-devouring beast devoured all the demonic beasts Qin Wenin trapped. Its body transformed back into a snow-white little demon with a bulging stomach. It swayed as it walked towards Qin Wenin, lying in Qin Wentian's embrace lazily. After that, it actually closed its eyes as golden light shone from it. Qin Wenin was stunned. Did it have nothing better to do? Purgatory, take care of little rascal. Qin Wenin passed little rascal's body to purgatory. His gaze turned to the air as he spoke. Since you are here, why don't you come out? Is there any meaning in hiding? The hearts of many people trembled. There were still experts here? Among the crowd, there were many peak-stage demon emperors. If they didn't know that there were people here, didn't this mean that these people were even more terrifying compared to them? At this moment, 3 figures descended, landing in the midst of the Jiang clan's experts. Their gazes were terrifying, able to penetrate through everything. The Jiang clan of the southern regions had always been mysterious and unfathomable. They seemed low-profile and didn't pursue hegemony, but they gave off a sense of danger. Right now, 3 Empyreans actually appeared. The eyes of everyone stared at them as they felt great waves of shock in their hearts. Were these 3 people all at the ancient emperor level? If this was the case, wasn't this a little too terrifying? 3 Empyreans, the Jiang clan is truly going all out. Qin Wentian spoke. His words undoubtedly verified the guesses of everyone, causing their hearts to tremble. The Jiang clan's inheritance originated from the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Jiang clan in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms is only a branch. One of them spoke. Qin Wenin silently mused that the waters of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms were truly very deep. The Heavenly Talisman Realm, the Jiang clan, the Ying clan and the others were all hegemonic powers of the upper world. Also, now that the situation has relaxed, so many experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms came to Azure Mystic. Clearly, the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms weren't what they appeared to be on the surface. If not, there was no need for these Empyreans to come here. There were no mines in Azure Mystic and the strength of the cultivators here was also very weak. What was the point of them coming here? If it was purely for the sake of recruiting disciples, there were so many experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms and countless geniuses. There was no need for them to travel across the immortal realms and spend so much effort to come to Azure Mystic to recruit disciples. In the air, more experts descended. However, they didn't join any of the camps. They only smiled and said, "We're just passing by to watch the show." More than 10 transcendents appeared in different directions, appearing from the void. Upon seeing this scene, the hearts of the experts from Azure Mystic trembled violently. There were actually so many transcendents hidden in the dark? These were all at the level of ancient emperors? They simply couldn't imagine that there were actually so many transcendents gathered in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. This made it hard for them to accept this. However, Qin Wenin already knew that the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms would come to Azure Mystic. With such a major incident happening in Azure Mystic, there would naturally be some people here to spectate. Although these people were in the dark, how could they hide from his immortal sense? Everyone from the supreme ancient immortal realms are all Empyreans, guests of Azure Mystic. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. He wouldn't offend these people from the supreme ancient immortal realms. People from the Heavenly Talisman realm, just come out. There's no need to hide anymore. Qin Wentian stared in the direction of the immortal Qinbian Gate as he spoke. He knew that the Heavenly Talisman realm was able to open a spatial tunnel in the void. Although he didn't sense their presence in the surroundings, he knew that the Heavenly Talisman realm had already arrived. Heavenly Talisman Realm? Many people in the air turned their gazes in the direction of the immortal Qiandian Gate. After that, someone laughed. I didn't expect them to be people from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. Also, they actually have such a major power in Azure Mystic. Seems like they have prepared for many years. In the void, a bright light flashed as several figures walked out. All of them were Empyreans at the ancient emperor level. Their auras were terrifying and they were clad in violet gold robes, exuding a sense of imposingness. These were none other than experts from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. In the vast space, countless people stared at the Empyreans who appeared. At this moment, they only felt that this was a surreal scene. Today, they initially thought that the peak powers of Azure Mystic would contend against each other. But at this moment, they suddenly discovered to their disbelief that the peak powers of the immortal realms didn't even have the qualifications to speak. Also, Qin Wenyan clearly already knew of this situation. After stepping into the ancient emperor realm, Qin Wenyan had long since no longer placed many of the major powers in Azure Mystic in his eyes. He gathered all the major powers of Azure Mystic for revenge. This was merely the first step. Before this, he concealed his true cultivation base and didn't reveal his strength as an ancient emperor because he wanted to send the enemies of the evergreen immortal empire to their deaths. At this moment, only now did the people of Azure Mystic truly feel that Qin Wenyan was no longer on the same level as them. The him who returned was an ancient emperor character. They could only look up to him in admiration. Since the devil cultivators from the myriad devil islands have already arrived at the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom, what are their intentions? Why are you all crowding around here? At this moment, an Empyrean from the Jiang clan spoke, his words causing the eyes of everyone to flash. The devil cultivators from the myriad devil islands have also arrived? Although his voice wasn't loud, everyone in the royal capital of the Evergreen Immortal Empire could hear it. Everyone quietly waited, and not too long after, a fearsome devil might gushed over from afar, exuding an extreme devil might that caused everyone to feel stifled. The experts from the 6 devil halls, as well as the emperors of the various regions, have all arrived. A terrifying army of the devil path that could contend against the Immortal Realms Alliance has arrived. Right now in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, immortals, demons and devils each occupied a territory. Long before the appearance of the Demon God Mountain, the myriad devil islands and the immortal realms Wuxiu used the Devil Gate as their boundary, mutually restricting each other. If the devil forces of the myriad devil islands were to gather together, they would be able to contend against the Immortal Realms Alliance. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful they would be. Right now, the experts from the 6 devil halls were all here. How terrifying was their lineup! Does the myriad devil islands want to dominate the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? But why don't I see the myriad devil sovereign? The people from the Jiang clan laughed. No matter how strong the devil army was, if there weren't any Empyreans among them, they wouldn't even be worth a mention. Before Empyreans, immortal emperors were like ants. This point could be seen from Qin Wenyan's actions earlier. The gazes of the devil cultivators turned to the center of the crowd, staring at the white-robed figure as they bowed in unison. We pay our respects to the devil sovereign. We pay our respects to the devil sovereign. The troops of the myriad devil islands all bowed in that direction, causing the expressions of everyone to stiffen. Over there, in the airspace above the royal capital of the Evergreen Immortal Empire, Qin Wenyan could be seen standing there. At this instant, the hearts of many involuntarily trembled. Dispense with the formalities. Qin Wenyan radiated boundless devil might, exuding a terrifying pressure. With a wave of his hand, countless devil cultivators inclined their heads. At this instant, the hearts of countless people trembled violently. So it turned out that Qin Wenyan was none other than the myriad devil sovereign. They initially thought that after Qin Wenyan returned from the upper world, he would use his overwhelming strength to take revenge, suppressing the world and controlling the Evergreen Kingdom with the help of the Namhuang clan, GD and the others. However, they didn't expect that Qin Wenyan had already become the myriad devil sovereign. In the vast devil islands, Countless devil cultivators all treated him as their lord. If those experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms were eliminated, just based on Qin Wentian's strength alone, it would be sufficient for him to dominate the world, challenging the entire immortal realms. He was simply too powerful. Even the powerful immortal Qianbian Gate had no way to be mentioned in the same breath as them. After all, the devil cultivators of the myriad devil islands all listened to his commands. Just this force alone already had the strength to contend against the immortal realms. Brother Qin actually already controls the myriad devil islands. Since this is the case, the devil cultivators of the myriad devil islands are all gathered here. Are you preparing to command the immortal realms and the demons of the desolate mountains to submit to Brother Qin? Jiang Zihua spoke. Who is your brother Qin? As the sound of Jiang Zihua's voice faded, Qin Wenyan glanced over and coldly spoke. Are you even worthy? Jiang Zihua's gaze froze as his expression instantly turned extremely unsightly. Qin Wentian's words were akin to smacking his face in public. However, who would dare to say that Qin Wentian's words were wrong? Right now, Qin Wenyan was someone who could even kill ancient emperors. No matter how high his talent was, he was merely an immortal emperor. Let alone, could his talent surpass Qin Wentian? If Qin Wentian said that he wasn't worthy, he didn't even have the qualifications to refute. Jiang Zihua coldly snorted. Although Qin Wentian was an Empyrean, he still felt extremely embarrassed to be humiliated in public. He coldly spoke. As expected, things are different now. Are you already looking down on those of the same generation as you? Qin Wentian stared at Jiang Zihua, his terrifying gaze penetrating through everything. At this instant, Jiang Zihua only felt that he had entered a miraculous state. It was like he was being seen through by Qin Wentian. Back then in the city of ancient emperors, when I transformed into the saber-sword immortal king, were you the one who revealed my identity? Qin Wentian's voice directly rang out in Jiang Zihua's mind, causing his eyes to narrow as his expression instantly changed. Are you trying to provoke me? Humph. Qin Wentian snorted, his voice rang out in Jiang Zihua's mind. Earlier, Jiang Zihua's actions didn't escape his eyes. His eyes of truth could see through all illusions. Just like what he guessed, it was indeed Jiang Zihua. The Jiang clan had a secret art that allowed them to control the immortal senses of others. Qin Wentian's transformation into the saber-sword immortal king had no flaws at all. Hence, he suspected Jiang Zihua. I'll take his life. Qin Wentian didn't look at Jiang Zihua. He was staring at the three Empyreans of the Jiang clan instead. Indeed, there was no need for him to look up to Jiang Zihua. Given his current cultivation base and status, killing Jiang Zihua was as easy as a thought. If it wasn't for the fact that the Jiang clan had Empyreans, he would have already killed Jiang Zihua. How arrogant! The Jiang clan leader coldly spoke. Bullying others too much. Qin Wentian, what qualifications do you have to do this? Jiang Zihua glared hatefully at Qin Wentian. What sort of character was he? He was one of the strongest geniuses of the Jiang clan, the future successor of the Jiang clan. However, he actually suffered such humiliation here. Based on the fact that you almost killed me in the city of ancient emperors. Qin Wentian spoke. Who can prove that I'm the one who did it? Jiang Zihua coldly spoke. There's no need for anyone to prove it. It's up to you. If I feel that it's me, then it's me. Qin Wentian tyrannically spoke. Chapter 1695. If I feel that it is, then it is. Qin Wentian's tone was extremely tyrannical, disregarding everything in his eyes. He didn't need any evidence or anyone to prove it. He felt that it was enough. The reason why Qin Wentian said this was because he didn't have any evidence, nor could he find any. However, he knew that it was definitely Jiang Zihua. The people of the Jiang clan were low-profile and mysterious, but they always gave him a very bad impression. Ever since Jiang Zihua's younger brother, Jiang Ziyu, clashed with him in the inheritance grounds of the Namhuang clan and invited him to the Jiang clan many times, Qin Wentian had always been on guard against them. Right now, 3 Empyreans from the Jiang clan descended to the lower world from the supreme ancient immortal realms. From this, one could very well imagine how deep they had hidden themselves. You want to kill someone from my Jiang clan just because you feel that way? Do you think we will agree? An Empyrean from the Jiang clan spoke. So what if Qin Wendian killed an Empyrean? That Empyrean was merely an ordinary Empyrean. They had 3 Empyreans from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Also, given their strength in the supreme ancient immortal realms, a mere azure mystic immortal realms was nothing in their eyes. Although this Qin Wendian was at the Empyrean realm, if he was in the supreme ancient immortal realms, they wouldn't care at all. It was only because this world was sealed that Qin Wendian dared to be so impudent before them. Even if you all don't agree, I still want to kill them. I have to settle the enmity between us. Qin Wendian continued. You have more subordinates. It should be easier for you to kill them. The Empyrean from the Jiang clan coldly threatened. I'll remember your words. Qin Wendian stared at the Empyrean and didn't continue to speak. He then glanced in the direction of the Heavenly Talisman Realm. I already know where the Heavenly Talisman Realm is in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Now that I've died once, my fate with the Heavenly Talisman Realm has also been severed. However, I've received their kindness in the past and I'm not willing to start a war with them. I hope that the Heavenly Talisman Realm can release Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya. Qin Wendian's words were filled with sincerity. Although the actions of the Heavenly Talisman Realm couldn't be said to be wrong, after all, they wanted to dominate the azure mystic immortal realms. However, due to some uncontrollable factors, he was destined to walk in a different direction from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. In that case, he decided to end everything here. As long as the Heavenly Talisman Realm was willing to release Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya, all the grudges of the past would vanish like smoke. In the future, if they met again on the path of dominance, they would fight against each other, relying on their own methods. But if the Heavenly Talisman Realm wasn't willing to release them, for the sake of Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya, the Heavenly Talisman Realm wouldn't just be an opponent on the path of dominance. They would become enemies as well. How can we give up on traitors so easily? However, they are still members of our sect after all. As long as you and them are willing to submit, our Heavenly Talisman Realm is willing to accept you all into our sect again. One of the Empyreans from the Heavenly Talisman Realm in the lead calmly spoke. How could it be so simple if they wanted them to release Qin Wendian? No matter what, the Heavenly Talisman Realm was the overlord of a world in the supreme ancient immortal realms. These people have already entered the tutelage of the Heavenly Talisman Realm Lord. How could they betray him just because he said so? What did the Heavenly Talisman Realm mean? Maybe they basically didn't know what sort of existence the Heavenly Talisman Realm was. Right now, the laws of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms had changed and the seals were loosened, completely disrupting their original plans. Unifying the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms was no longer as important as before. However, if they could unify this entire world, it would still be of some use. In addition, they had spent so many years of effort, they didn't want to waste their efforts just like that. They rejected us. Qin Wendian silently sighed in his heart. His gaze turned to Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya. His white robes fluttered in the wind. He stood there, nobody knew what he was thinking. Heavenly Talisman Realm, are you sure you want to do this? Qin Wendian asked again. The words of a saint carry enormous weight. You should understand the meaning of being an Empyrean. The 4 Empyreans of the Heavenly Talisman Realm naturally wouldn't compromise. Qin Wendian also didn't have the qualifications to make them compromise. Fine. Since this is the case, Mengchen, senior brother Bai, wait for me for a few days. I will naturally rescue the 2 of you. Qin Wendian stared at Jun Mengchen and Bai Wuya as he spoke. Senior brother Qin, I will wait for you. Jun Mengchen had a radiant smile on his face. Although he was imprisoned, he was still very happy to see his senior brother Qin returning alive and in such a domineering manner. He was truly happy. He believed in his senior brother Qin's words. If his senior brother Qin said he would be able to rescue him, he would definitely be able to. Right. Bai Wuya nodded and only spoke a single word. Qin Wenyan no longer glanced at the experts from the heavenly talisman realm. He stared at the people in the air and spoke. Qin Wenyan, summon the experts of the immortal realms here for two reasons. Firstly, it's for revenge. Now that the grudge has been settled, the second reason is to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. In the history of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, there have been many ancient emperors who unified the immortal realms, leaving behind a glorious history. Today, I'm imitating the ancient emperors and wish to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, putting an end to the chaos and killing each other. In this chaotic era, the geniuses contended for supremacy, Tao elements appeared. How can it be so easy to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? Someone spoke. It's precisely because of this that the rules of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms have changed. This is why we need to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms and set a new rule. Right now, it's time for cultivation to flourish. Our Azure Mystic Immortal Realms should have many outstanding geniuses who can verify their Daos and become ancient emperors. The present cannot be compared to the past. With so many Empyreans descending from the supreme ancient immortal realms, even if you all stepped into the ancient emperor realm, who can be invincible under the heavens? Just with me around, no one can defeat me. Since this is the case, what's the point of killing each other? After everyone comprehend the Tao elements, if you can verify your Daos, you will naturally have a way to head to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wendian continued, Azure Mystic is boundlessly vast. There are countless experts here. However, other than those from the supreme ancient immortal realms, who in Azure Mystic can be stronger than me? I want to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. It isn't for myself. All of you are useless to me. As for the so-called glory, I feel even more disdain for it. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, I'm also a palace lord and the territory I govern isn't any weaker than the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Hence, I hope to unify the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. It's not because of fame and benefits. Those who are willing to submit to me will be under my protection. However, all of you have to listen to my commands. Everyone, please consider it carefully. The experts from the various powers felt their hearts shaking when they heard Qin Wendian's words. In the history of Azure Mystic, there were ancient emperors who unified the world, but they eventually had to leave. To them, fame and benefits truly didn't have much meaning. Right now, Qin Wendian already controlled the myriad Devil Islands and the Evergreen Kingdom. In addition, the Namhuang clan, GD and many other powers would clearly follow him. The strength under his control already surpassed half of the peak powers in the immortal realms. If they submitted to him, they would be able to form an extremely powerful alliance. If they didn't submit, they wouldn't be protected. This was especially so when the power under Qin Wendian's control suppressed them. They basically wouldn't be able to say anything. This was something they had to consider. My heavenly talisman realm has established the immortal Qianbian Gate in Azure Mystic, similarly wanting to unify the immortal realms. For those who are willing to submit to my immortal Qianbian Gate, they will be protected by our heavenly talisman realm. An expert from the heavenly talisman realm spoke. The heavenly talisman realm is a major power in the supreme ancient immortal realms and has existed for countless years in Azure Mystic. In the future, there would be more Empyreans descending here. Everyone, please consider this carefully. Who is willing to follow my Jiang clan? An expert from the Jiang clan spoke. The Empyreans in the air all had expressions of interest on their faces. Right now, 3 hegemonic powers were vying for control of the immortal realms. How interesting would these people choose? No matter who they chose, they would definitely offend the other 2 hegemonic powers. Would they be able to endure such rage? My Wenxin Temple will not participate in the disputes of Azure Mystic. The Reverend from the Wenxin Temple pressed his palms together. Reverend, given the current circumstances of Azure Mystic, how can the Wenxin Temple stand alone? The expert from the Jiang clan calmly spoke. Reverend, your state of heart is transcendent. Wenxin Temple is a sacred ground. If you are unwilling to participate in the disputes of Azure Mystic, I naturally won't force you. I, Qin, am willing to protect Azure Mystic. If there's anyone who dares to disturb the cultivation of the reverends from the Wenxin Temple, that person would be my enemy. Qin Wenyan spoke, his words causing the Empyreans from the Jiang clan to glance at him. Was he trying to oppose him? The words of the two of them clearly showed the difference in their demeanor. This old monk represents the Wenxin Temple to thank benefactor Qin. The reverend pressed his palms together and bowed. Reverend is too polite. Qin Wenyan returned the gesture. Back then, the Wenxin Temple acted for him. This was something that should be done. The immortal realms are in chaos. I also don't wish for the world to be filled with killing and corpses. I'm willing to follow the general trend. The Hokage Sengoku Kingdom shall follow the footsteps of the Evergreen Kingdom. The Dark North Immortal Emperor contemplated for a moment before he spoke. Since Qin Wenyan was acquainted with his daughter Yu Huang and was also good friends with Nongyue, he naturally was willing to stand on Qin Wentian's side. Many thanks for Uncle's help. Qin Wenyan spoke to the Dark North Immortal Emperor, referring to him as Uncle, treating the Dark North Immortal Emperor as an elder. This caused many people to have strange looks on their faces. The Dark North Immortal Emperor also felt more at ease. Since the Dark North Immortal Emperor is willing to submit, my 100 Refinements sect, Jadestige Immortal Palace and Hokage Sengoku Kingdom are one. We are willing to submit as well. The sect leader of the 100 Refinements sect stated. The Jadestige Immortal Palace mistress nodded to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wentian nodded to both sides. In the northern regions of the Immortal Realms, they would be able to conquer half of it. My Chaotic Sky sect is willing to submit to the Jiang clan. Hearing the Chaotic Sky sect's expert express his stance, the Jiang clan's Transcendent One smiled and said, "Your choice will be wise." After that, the various major powers all expressed their stances. The Shooting Sun Kingdom of the Central Region was willing to follow Qin Wenyan. The Thunder God Hall, Snowdrift Sage Hall, Nibblesky Sacred Sect were all willing to follow the Jiang clan. Some of the major powers in the western regions, as well as the Beast God sect, were willing to submit to the immortal Chenbian Gate. Just like what the Empyreans of the Jiang clan have said, in this chaotic world, since Empyreans appeared, they were destined to unify the immortal realms. The demons of the Desolate Mountains are willing to retreat to the desolate 10,000 mountain range, not entering the immortal realms. A greater demon from the demon race, Baze, spoke in a light voice. Back then when the Demon God Mountain appeared, the demons of the Desolate Mountains were all unexcelled in the world. But now, due to the circumstances, quite a few of their demon races were massacred, causing the other demons to feel sympathy for them. But they were also unwilling to submit to Wu Xiu. Hence, they could only retreat. Return to the Desolate Mountains? Many people coldly laughed. The immortal realms were already like this. How could they retreat just because they wanted to? But right now, they didn't express their stance. In the future, everything would be clear. Today, countless experts of the immortal realms gathered in the royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. Qin Wenyan tyrannically took revenge, killing countless experts and Empyreans. But in the end, the immortal realms were divided into 3 factions. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.